You are listening to the continuation of the story. You can listen to the previous part via the link in the description below this video. Happy listening.
All right, let's do this. How are you? What the fuckers? What the fuck buddies? What the fuck nicks? What's happening? I'm Marc Maron. This is my podcast.
New patients usually behave very differently.
How's it going?
Randall,
okay,
I hope that I will have a pleasant conversation with you. I think open communication will help both of us.
Believe me.
I think so too.
I understand how you're feeling.
Thanks, Andrew.
But
he brought me to a small room and continued.
I'm still having the good talks.
When we free you from the belts,
I mean, today
I will ask you to calmly undress
Josh
and put your clothes on the bed.
It was crazy. I
Then
haven't
put on
talked
this
to him in a while. He's been on before, and it was kind of crazy the last time.
We will pack your belongings securely. Once you are settled in bed, I will secure you to the bed frame with wrist and ankle straps for your safety until you can be assessed by your physician.
Down into the catacombs
will this cause you problems?
With
not at all, Randall. You have made your request clear and concise. I will try to cooperate to alleviate any concerns you may have.
And it's crazy.
I think we'll work well together, Andrew.
Where does that come from?
It's a pity that not all my patients
and he'd always
are as nice
wanted to do it.
And
obviously he's an interesting guy that's been through a lot of stuff.
Thank you very much, Randall.
Seriously,
I'll put in a good word for you with the doctor when he finally decides to come see me.
But I was
struck by my unexpectedly friendly behavior. He laughed.
His person was like,
now that you are safe, I have been tasked with giving you anti-anxiety medications and sleeping pills. These are just to keep you calm during your period of limited activity.
The need to make it happen.
I understand and accept that you are required to perform your professional responsibilities as part of your employment here.
There's been a lot of revelations over the last few days,
at all times.
And I am
Please,
grateful and amazed
continue with your work.
at the feedback.
He took out 2 pills and placed them in my open mouth.
That are coming at me.
Then, lifting my gloved head, he brought me a glass of water.
The show down
I drank the water willingly, allowing him to carefully examine my mouth.
It's very moving, and there's certainly a sadness to it, and we're not going to make every one of these episodes a reflection on the decision,
but my thoughts were different.
Boy, I didn't know it would have ripples around the world.
Realizing the need for
and
quality
I know,
sleep.
Look, I appreciate the part I play in everyone's life, and I appreciate the part you play in my life, and I'm just going to keep going here.
I began mentally multiplying 4-digit numbers, and soon I was lulled to sleep. I was woken up at 9 and by a cheerful nurse named Wanda who brought me breakfast.
In a general sense, that
she asked if I needed to urinate or go to the toilet. I communicated the need to urinate, and she deftly used a curved neck patient bottle, covering me for privacy. I nodded, and she put the bottle away, screwed the cap on, and placed it on the shelf of her cart. She then rolled the cart closer to me and started feeding me breakfast. I was surprised to find that only the dishes I liked were served for breakfast. But I didn't say anything, even though I found it curious. We chatted pleasantly about nothing important. She was a real professional, and I noted this in the conversation. Before she left, Wanda left the call button next to my right hand, explaining that I could press it when I needed to use the restroom.
Reckon with the void.
She promised to respond quickly
so
that no one would face the consequences of being slow.
All of a sudden something happens in your life.
An hour later, I pressed the button, and they brought me a vessel.
And you're kind of
a male orderly helped lift me to get the bedpan into the correct position. Although the smell was unpleasant, I managed to cope with the situation. My back was expertly cleaned and put in order. My mind started working.
All right, so
I knew that after 72 hours of involuntary detention, there would be a hearing.
I didn't know how to feel.
The judge will listen to the doctor evaluating me in the presence of my lawyer and me. The judge will then decide whether the examination should continue or whether I should be released.
Interesting feelings.
I was looking forward to meeting Ara Abbott, but instead I was in for a shock.
But it's just
during the mandatory assessment,
sort of,
only the nursing staff, the doctor, and my lawyer were allowed access to me. The family was excluded for therapeutic reasons. However, to my amazement, Mary Beth appeared during lunch.
The void.
Wanda rolled out the cart with my lunch, and Mary Beth came in behind
it's a slight shift.
Wanda quickly left,
to see it
as if she didn't want to hear what we were going to talk about.
Terrifying.
I foresaw that this might happen, given Ben's financial capabilities, and did the only thing I could at that moment.
Or you can see it as this world of possibility.
Hi, darling.
Are
you feeling better this morning? Andrew,
when you take an element out of your life,
she was irritated by my lack of response, so she lightly tapped me on the face to wake me up. I tried my best not to blink and remain motionless.
But on the other side of that, all of a sudden you open up
the
life to other possibilities, whatever they may be. Whether they're professional or personal.
She tried pouring some juice into my mouth. hoping for an automatic reaction.
An elevating
I let the
feeling
liquid
to that.
enter my mouth,
but it's grounded
and then poured it
in
back
all
onto the bed.
Things. Sadness, terror.
Well, what kind of disgrace?
The things.
Look what you've done.
But
Andrew,
I
can you hear me?
Another realization
I love you,
the other
Andrew.
day.
But I still didn't react.
I'll share with you because
they probably over-medicated you.
Yesterday,
I'll ask Ben to talk to the doctor.
Sarah Sherman from
You must
SNL.
be awake
I always
and
wanted to
conscious
talk to
for
her
me.
because I think she's
How can we work things out
true,
if you don't even know I'm
blue
here?
Weirdo who
Crap.
does
I shouldn't have come
shit.
here.
And
she leaned over and kissed my lips,
really know her.
as motionless as rubber, and
but,
left.
I'm a fan.
Wanda returned 5 minutes later.
We had a great conversation.
What was that,
Andrew? Whenever we put
she
it up,
left,
but it was truly
angrily
one
complaining
of the
that we
beauties.
had drugged you
but
and turned
she came
you
over
into
with a
a
friend.
zombie.
Her best
I don't
friend,
know, Wanda.
I think her name was Ruby.
Perhaps the wrong
and
person
Ruby hung
was
out,
tied to this
out on the
bed
porch
for
while Sarah and I
evaluation.
talking about then after
I can't
the
diagnose
conversation,
her
I went out
condition.
there
I chuckled.
and I noticed Ruby.
Unfortunately,
and
she spilled the orange juice while
she's
trying
reading
to give me a
Faulkner,
sip.
and not just Faulkner,
She doesn't
but
have
The
your
Sound and the
skills,
Fury.
I'm afraid.
Right, and this
It's
is a book
okay,
that
Andrew.
kind of changed my
I have a
entire
rubber
life
pad
somehow.
underneath you.
And
I'll change
I
it
was
now,
just so thrilled.
and you'll
I
be
was like,
dry
oh my
as a
God.
bone.
Someone's
I don't
reading The
understand
Sound
why
of the
they
Fury.
keep
A
you
young
tied up,
person
given
is
your
like,
calm
is in
demeanor.
the Faulkner.
I did not
and I
see
kinda,
any signs
I
of
lit up and I was
aggression
like,
or
which
violence.
section are you on? Are you
I'll
on
go
the
talk to
Benji
the
section?
doctor.
Where are you at?
Maybe
Are
we
you
can free you.
And she said she's on
I
the
don't
Quentin
understand
section. I'm like,
either,
oh, Quentin
Wanda.
doesn't end well for Quentin.
Any
and then,
information
my
you can
brain
find
just
out will
lit
be
up.
very helpful
and I was like,
to me.
we started
I
talking
don't
about
have the
Faulkner.
slightest
They both
idea
read
why
Absalom,
I'm here.
Absalom, and they were
I
just
would never
discovering
harm
this guy,
anyone,
the greatest
especially
writer ever.
myself.
And
I
then,
have
somehow or another, we got to
children
Bruce
to live
Wagner,
for,
and you guys know
and
that
I
I'm a
hope
Bruce
to be a
Wagner
grandfather
freak.
one day.
And then I'm like
We
showing
had a
them my
nice
Bruce
chat
Wagner
about
books, and I
children
told
and
her about this
grandchildren
book that I
while
had
she
in
fed me
college
lunch,
by this
and
guy
then
named
left me
Clanth
alone
Brooks,
with
who
my
was like the
thoughts.
Faulkner critic
Without a
guy.
watch and
And it
unable
was
to
just
tell the
this
time from the
feeling
staff, I began to watch the
being
sunlight
lit up,
falling on the opposite wall to
by
determine the time of
talking
meals.
to people
This
that,
method was surprisingly
excite you,
accurate, and I
in
predicted
terms
Mary
of,
Beth's next
what you're
lunchtime
interested
visit.
in,
Hello,
and
Andrew.
what things that
It's me
light
again.
you up.
I've
or
missed
just
you
to
so much
engage
since
on that
you've been
level, which
here.
is something I've done
I
here
came to
for
feed
years.
you lunch
but,
because you can't
it's
feed
available
yourself.
to you.
In
It's
anticipation
available
of her
to you
arrival, I prepared
out in the
myself.
world.
I
And it's
pretended to
something
be
that,
in a stupor,
is
just
of
like yesterday.
primary importance.
My head lay on the pillow.
In the world
my
we
eyes
live
were
in,
slightly
and in the
open,
lives that we
but my
live
gaze
isolated
remained
on our
motionless.
phones,
In addition,
afraid,
I had
full of
accumulated
weird
a decent
panic
amount of
and not really
saliva
knowing
in my
what's gonna
mouth,
happen,
which
and-
began to flow out of the corner
But
of my
if you have those
slightly
people,
open mouth.
like my buddy Sam,
His arms
Lipside
lay
and I,
limply
we talk
along
probably
his
every
body.
day.
Oh,
on the
honey,
phone.
you're
He's
drooling.
in New York, but
Can't do anything about it,
that
Andrew.
these
What's
conversations
happening?
I've had in here,
They said
but
you talked this
in
morning.
life.
Maybe they
in
gave you
life
medicine again.
to
Damn
pursue
it.
the conversations
Andrew,
that
she slapped me
excite
lightly
you
on the face,
and
but
just
I
trigger
continued
your
to remain
passions,
motionless.
trigger your creativity,
Her irritation grew,
trigger your,
and she again
your understanding
blamed
of
the
the world,
orderly
make
or
you
doctor
laugh.
for everything.
I mean, I know
I don't
maybe it's a
understand
tall
what's
order,
going on here, but I'll find
those
out right
people
now.
in your life
She took
are,
out a
are
napkin
essential,
and wiped
they've
away
always
my
been essential
saliva.
to me.
I didn't
and
move
I think there's
or
something
react.
about me that
I didn't care
some
what
of
she
you have
thought. The main
gleaned.
thing was that she left as soon
I was
as
kind
possible.
of a lost,
she soon returned with Wanda,
soul
who had
for
already
a lot
become
of
my
life.
ally.
Kind of
Look
had
at
a very
him.
ill-defined
What did you do
sense
with
of
him?
self.
His
and
eyes
the way
are
I
empty,
defined that
and
for
he
a good
cannot
chunk of
move
it
or
creatively
speak.
was through anger.
I need him to be able to talk to me.
But I was
How
always
can he
looking
speak
for
if he's
people
been
to
drugged?
show me the
Mary
way,
Beth
to give me
exploded.
the answers,
Wanda
to give me a new
replied,
perspective.
I swear
to
to
make
you,
me laugh,
Mrs. Stevenson,
to make
I did
me
not
think,
give him
to
any
blow
strong
my mind
drugs.
with creativity.
I'll make a
to
note
turn
on
me
his chart
whatever
and
it
have
is
Dr. Edderl look
that,
into it.
That pursuit,
make sure it stays
in
that
life,
way,
and
or I
then
will
to
get
try
you
to hold
fired.
on to those relationships.
If I had
that
known
continue
how
to give you that
inhumanely he would be
are
treated,
just
I would
essential.
never have signed the
And I
papers
think
to
that
place
there's
him
something
here.
about,
Mary
being
Beth then stormed out of the
isolated and being
room,
locked into
leaving
patterns, or
Wanda
locked
to
into
check
your
on
phone,
me.
or locked into
As soon
being
as
the
the
shit
door
out of yourself,
closed, Wanda
or
laughed.
locked into fear.
Why are you
or
doing
locked
this to your
into,
wife, making her think that you are drugged? Just because we're still officially married doesn't mean I have to answer her, right? She cheated on me with my boss.
There are people out there that know how to talk,
That's
and there
why
are
I'm
people
here.
out there
they
that
want
like
to punish
what you
me
like,
for
and
not
there are
agreeing
people
with
out
their
there
vicious scheme.
that can spark
Very
that
soon
excitement
I will have a trial,
about
and I will
art,
leave
about
this
life,
place.
about
If everything is as you say, then someone will have to answer for
place, but just
we already have enough real patience for someone else to use the system for personal gain, Wanda said seriously.
Is fucking essential. And
let me ask you something, Wanda.
That I've learned from doing this show.
I've been here for 2 days now, and the 72 hours are up tomorrow.
Have it in my life.
I have to have a hearing with a judge along with my doctor.
Make sure I nurture those relationships.
This is standard procedure unless the case is exceptional. Shouldn't I have been examined by a doctor at least once during all this time?
Wondering if it's going to suck you in.
Of course, Dr. Ederl is your doctor.
So look, folks,
this
as I said, Josh Homme's here today, front man.
Then he is also in cahoots with my wife and my rich boss.
Caius.
I haven't seen any doctor. Absolutely no one. Since I've been
on the show
here.
back in 2013.
I don't even know what Dr.
Ederl
looks
he had
like.
after
Damn,
MRSA
Andrew,
infection.
this is a lot
also,
more serious than I thought.
the first 3 episodes of the series Stick
what can I do?
are now on
How
Apple
can I
TV
help?
Plus. I'm in
she
that.
She asked anxiously.
And it's
just
I think
continue
it's
to fulfill
touching.
your professional
and look, folks,
duties.
If you're making
Wanda,
summer vacation
whatever
plans,
they require.
you should also be making sure
I don't consider
your
you to
home
blame
is
for
secure
what's happening.
while you're away.
If my lawyer
okay?
is anything to
do
go
that?
by,
Can
I
ya?
should be released
That's why
tomorrow.
we recommend Simply
Then I'll
Safe,
be
which is
sorry
setting
to
the new
lose you,
standard in
Andrew.
home security.
You don't
With
deserve
traditional
this.
security systems,
Dr.
police
Ederl
get called
could be
only
fired
after
and
someone
lose
is
his
already
license
broken
because
in.
of this.
But Simply
I don't
Safe's
think he
monitoring
cares, Wanda.
agents help prevent
I'm sure
break-ins
Ben
before
provided
they happen.
him with financial
The AI-powered
insurance.
cameras are backed
You know,
by
Wanda,
live professional
can I ask you
monitoring
for a
agents
personal favor?
to detect suspicious activity
Of course,
on your property
what's on your mind?
around the clock.
I began to
Agents
worry.
can talk to
It
people
was already
on your
the
property,
third day,
activate
and no
spotlights,
one said a
contact
word about
police,
my transportation
all in
to
real
court,
time. That not
although
only
the
prevents
morning had
threats,
already
it deters
passed.
them too. Hey,
Shortly after
get
dinner,
away from
Mary
the
Beth
window.
and Ben
You.
came into my room
More than
unaccompanied.
4 million Americans
ready.
use and trust
I
Simply
feigned my
Safe, which is one of the
continued
reasons
days,
it's been named
opening
the
my
best home
eyes,
security
but
system
maintaining a
of
vacant,
2025 by
unfocused
CNET.
stare.
Right now, you
It
can
also
get
allowed
50%
drool
off
to
your
flow
new
out
Simply
of the
Safe
corner
system
of
with
my mouth
professional
again.
monitoring.
He
and
looks
you
the
can,
same as yesterday.
You can also get your
Ben,
first month
no
free.
changes.
Just go to
Mary Beth said.
simplysafe.com/WTF.
Dr. Ederl
That's
swore that he had not
simplysafe.com
received any medications in the last 24 hours.
And your first month free.
So there's no reason for him to look like that unless he's been
There's no safe like
over-medicated
Simply
before.
Safe.
Quite possibly,
Yes.
I expected this.
Yes.
Do as we agreed, Mary
Oh my
Beth.
God! And all the
Help him
previous
wake
guests
up.
and people in my
If this
business have been
doesn't work,
reaching out
nothing
and
will.
congratulating me.
Okay,
and,
Ben,
and Brendan.
do you think
and
it will be
saying
better?
What an amazing
I just
run
want
it's
my
been
husband
and what
back.
we've contributed,
And I want
you
my
know,
fortune teller back.
I don't know, man.
He chuckled.
We've
We've been at an impasse since
I feel
he left.
like the void is
Well,
filled
go ahead,
with
try.
possibility.
If that doesn't
and
bring
I've
him
been,
around, try
I've been
something more
re-energized
convincing.
to nurture
Mary Beth
and
nodded
pursue
and walked over to me.
relationships with people.
However,
that,
as she approached, she
that bring a
suddenly
lot
stopped.
to my life.
What is
and,
that smell?
and I don't know.
This
I
is
hope
terrible.
You do as
She
well.
winced. She then
And I've been
pulled
doing a
back
lot
the
of comedy.
blanket
It's very
and lifted
funny,
the
you know,
hospital gown.
when I feel a loss
he crapped
or pain
himself.
or
A pile of crap lies right
period
between
of,
his legs.
Sort of floating.
I can't
like
approach him
I
in
just
this state.
lean in.
We'll have to
and I
wait
just
for the
go
orderly
hit the
to remove
stage,
it.
Go
It's
to the
their
comedy
job,
store,
not mine.
and get
Then
up
let's
there
go,
and kind of
Ben
yammer.
said.
But I'm sort of
We'll
in
be
a
back
different
tomorrow.
zone right now. I'm kind of
About 15
kinda
minutes
grounded
later,
in zero
Wanda
fucky.
came into the room
It's
laughing
kinda
so
good
hard
to be
she
zero
couldn't help
fucky,
herself.
you know, and
this
just
woman had the
speak your
audacity to
mind.
scold me for leaving
I've been
you
kinda
in
going
this
at
state.
the,
She said you have to be
kind of
clean
actively
tomorrow,
kind of
or
trying to
she'll
wrap my
give me
brain
hell.
around the idea
Sorry,
of the
Wanda,
manosphere.
but this trick
and,
worked perfectly.
You know, what that means
I'm
to culture.
sorry you have to
Obviously,
clean
I've done
all
that
this
for
up.
years. I think
Don't worry
probably
about it,
ahead of
Andrew.
anyone
Your
calling
suggestion
it the
to use a
manosphere.
washcloth as
But
backing
it's a
was
very
brilliant.
odd thing.
It
you know,
prevents
these
mess
just
and leaves
yammering
only
men
the scent behind.
microphones.
I
you
would
know,
have loved to
spending a
see
lot
her
of time,
reaction when she found
talking
everything.
about
You
how
really
they
cracked
think
me
women
up.
should be, or what a woman's
Thank you,
what a
Wanda.
woman's role is.
I have
and,
no
like,
idea
to the
why I
point
didn't
where it's
have my
obsessive.
hearing today.
And sometimes I
Ben
think, like,
must have
why don't you
bribed the
take the women
doctor
out of
to
the
extend
equation
the
and just
time.
fuck each other already?
It's the only
Just-
thing that
just
makes
do
sense.
it. Do us all
Even
a
if
favor.
this is
Let
true,
it go.
I guarantee that you will have a hearing in 7 days, even if you have to be carried there on a bed.
Because it's
not even Dr. Ederl can bypass this procedure.
Like doing jaw
it's a pity that you have to
exercises
endure
make their
4
jaws
more days of this
more
treatment.
Pronounced, and they're
Your shifts
flying
are the
to
best
Turkey
8 hours
to get
of my
hair
day,
transplants.
Wanda.
I mean, it just feels in their.
Thank you for your
they're
kindness.
Just eating,
now
raw
we need to
meat and
plan
getting
for
ripped.
tomorrow.
It feels like
Are
they're
you
just
close enough
evolving
with
into
other
some
employees
sort
to
of,
ask them
gay
for a few
fuckbot.
small favors
And,
when needed?
I just don't
I
know.
think yes,
I don't know
if
where
these are
this all
not
ends
too
up.
difficult requests.
I had this idea
I
about
promise everything
the
will be
symbol.
standard and simple.
There's a symbol,
but we
an
will
ancient
need
symbol,
the help of
Ouroboros.
several people.
I don't know if I'm
On the
pronouncing it
4th
right.
day of my stay
But,
at the
it's a
psychiatric
snake eating its
hotel,
own tail.
Mary Beth and Ben walked in
it's sort of
again as if they
a
owned the
symbol
place.
for totality,
Unfazed by my motionless appearance, she continued her attempt to revive me. Even though I was completely restrained and unable to physically resist, I maintained an appearance of stupor so that they would continue to believe that I was incapacitated.
Its own balls.
As soon as she approached me,
I was
an
so happy
orderly
about
I
that
didn't
one.
know entered the room. Sorry to interrupt your
I was
visit,
like, this is
but
gonna
I
be
have
great.
to take his blood
And then
pressure
people were
right
just sort of
now,
like,
he
what?
said. Mary
What is he
Beth
talking
embarrassedly
about?
withdrew
Underwear,
her hands
folks.
and walked away
Underwear.
from the bed.
It's something you
the
probably
orderly
don't think
winked
about a
at
lot.
me
You just put
and
them
began
on
to
and
slowly
go about
measure
your
my
day.
blood
I can
pressure.
tell you from experience
He
that ignoring
deliberately
your
stalled
underwear
for
will
time by whistling the old Hank Williams song, You're Cheatin' Heart.
I got the 5-inch cotton boxer briefs from Skims, and I've got to say, they are definitely comfortable. You'll realize that you've been spending most of your life in underwear and neglect. These are boxer briefs that hit right at the thigh and stay there. That's the big difference. No moving around, no bunching up, no late in the day wedgie. It's the underwear you've been waiting for your whole life. And yes, this is Skims underwear. Maybe you thought it was only a brand for women, but now you can share the comfort that your wife or your girlfriend have been experiencing with Skims. This is a full line of underwear for men.
She pretended the thermometer wasn't working
with several
and said
styles
the batteries
and colors, so
were
you
bad.
can pick what's right for you.
After that,
Shop
she left
Men's
and returned only 10 minutes later, allegedly with new batteries. She then spent another 10 minutes trying to install them, and then finally pretended to take the temperature.
So this is a great conversation.
For the delay and left.
I always like seeing
this is
Josh
simply
Homme.
incredible.
He's a
Mary Beth exclaimed. As soon as I start doing something,
never stops
we are
working.
constantly
and
interrupted.
The Queens of the Stone Age, Alive in the Catacombs, is available
Try again.
at
She tried to get back to her work again. But not even 2 minutes had passed before Wanda entered the room. I need to take a blood sample for analysis, she said, as if nothing unusual was happening. Mary Beth was forced to stop again.
I don't even know
Wanda
where
came up to me with a syringe
pillow.
and began to look for a vein.
You know, when I interviewed
she pretended
him
to miss 3 times, but finally allegedly successfully completed the blood draw.
Rollins,
in fact,
said,
my skin wasn't even pierced.
Have you ever met Jim?
After Wanda left, Ben and Mary Beth looked completely upset. Do you think that we could be accused of sexual assault if one of the employees finds out about this?
And Jim is a very erudite.
You're his wife, Ben replied, so it's not a crime. You have a legal right to do this.
Knows the thing.
However, they decided to stop their attempts
he came over and I didn't really know what to expect. And we were out at the
as soon as the door closed behind them, Wanda came back into the room, and we both couldn't help but laugh.
Day. And then
that was brilliant,
Andrew. I'm like, well, I guess it's going to be half Jim,
we made
half
them
Iggy.
So angry.
That's how this is going to go.
It was the perfect plan, Wanda.
I think you want half Jim,
They still
half
think
Iggy.
that I am in a catatonic state and have failed to carry out their vile plans.
And sort of
thanks
trying
for
to do
your
a
help.
hail rock
On
and
the
roll
5th
thing
day of my
where
stay,
armored
Wanda
up in
proposed
suits,
a new plan to limit their access to me, and I happily agreed. As Mary Beth tried to continue her actions again, Randall entered the room. Sorry for the inconvenience, but I have to take him for a CT scan.
I never know how those things happen.
It will take a couple of hours.
Did you say to Iggy,
Ben noted,
get this
Dr. Ederl seems to be doing too many tests. He's probably preparing a case to keep Andrew here longer. Hopefully, we can bring him to his senses before it's too late. Once they were gone, Randall simply rolled the bed back and said it was his pleasure to help. He even came to work on his day off to support me. On the 6th day, I started to get nervous. I was exhausted by being constantly in a state of complete immobility for almost a week. Wanda informed me that Dr. Ederl had forbidden me to use any means of communication, citing my mental well-being.
But it was a text that essentially
I understood that the staff were simply doing their jobs.
Collaborate on something.
Fortunately, neither Ben nor Mary Beth showed up that day.
Iggy Pop.
I assumed they were busy preparing for tomorrow hearing, where they would practice speaking and acting in my best interests. I tried to remain calm, confident that my parents and lawyer would come to my aid.
Many phones as well.
They had never let me down before, and I believe they wouldn't let me down now. Tomorrow will be a decisive day. At 6 a.m., on the 7th day of my captivity, a nurse named Arlene, whom I had never met before, woke me up and began giving me a sponge bath, usually done by Wanda.
Well, it's sort of like from one of the immortals.
Is she sick?
Yeah.
I asked. Oh, no, she's not sick.
Certainly, because one
we typically work a 5-day, 40-hour work week.
There is no such
Today
thing
is her day off, so I will take care of you on this shift. My name is Arlene, by the way. Wanda told me that you are her nicest patient. My job is to prepare you for today's court hearing. After I shave you and clean you up, another orderly day will bring you the clothes you were wearing when you came to us.
But in my town, if it's
Wanda convinced us that you wouldn't need to be forced to dress.
It's like, no,
once you are released from the restraints and dressed,
pretty good.
David will secure you in the wheelchair.
Then you play
this is standard procedure for cases such as yours.
Maybe
David will then drive you to court in a special van and accompany you to the hearing. I was told that this was a formality and that you would return here after the meeting. Do you have any problems with what I just said, Andrew?
Yeah, it's like 1
there won't be any problems,
6 billion, maybe.
Right.
I will try to help you to make your work easier. I look forward to today's hearing. I hope it will be very informative.
So, how he's going to come off.
Nothing. I just think that after 7 days of confinement, I might find it interesting.
Part of the
I didn't want to look too enthusiastic.
With him, it's all.
I'm sorry, Andrew.
As a band,
you must be a special case.
That's a lot of it.
We usually restrain people overnight or for a maximum of 3 days if they become violent. I've never seen anyone kept for so long, but these are Dr. Etterl's orders, and we have to follow them, or we'll be fired.
Sure.
I'm not complaining about you or the other employees.
If I was going to play with Iggy,
you just do your job, and everyone I met was the epitome of professionalism.
And by the
Thank
time
you
we
for your kindness.
got together,
Wanda was right,
it was
Andrew.
the perfect time.
You are truly the nicest patient I have ever met.
And
David drove me to court in a special van and left me in an empty room until the hearing started at 9 a.m. It was nice to finally see the clock on the wall and know the time.
Voice,
until the moment I was taken to courtroom 3B, no one approached me.
Yeah.
The hearing was closed.
I can't remember. The album was all new stuff, right?
How Ben achieved
it was all new stuff.
But when you did the concert,
there were only
you did some
a few
classics.
people in the hall to witness this momentous event.
Two albums.
Mary Beth ran up to me and definitely hugged me in front of everyone.
And there was a lot of things that never
being tied up
in that
I
zone.
could not push her away,
really?
and such an action could be regarded as an act of aggression. I couldn't risk it. David drove me to a table where two men were sitting.
All these things.
The bailiff entered the courtroom and announced the judge.
A chance to,
I was the only one who couldn't get up.
I treated
the
it
bailiff began. Your Honor, the first
like
case on the agenda is no.
I'm trying to
37692, involuntary placement in the custody of Mr. Andrew Stevenson. All parties are present,
to try
Your
to be
Honor.
as respectful as
Fine.
Well, yeah,
Who
but
is
also
representing Mr. Stevenson
because
this morning?
tonally that stuff is. I mean, I think
the two men stood up at the same time and said,
it's
"I am
deep
Your Honor."
inside my alley.
One of them stood next to me, the other
so
behind
me. Going to come out of you
Looks like there's a misunderstanding here.
Kind of
Which one of you is hired by Mr. Stevenson?
Yeah, well, it's
they
fun
answered
to
simultaneously
do a Rubik's
again.
Cube, which is not your
I am
cube.
Your Honor.
Yeah,
the judge pointed to the man next to me.
It's all purple.
Let's start
But I imagine he's like somebody who's just going to respond to the thrust of the thing. Was he picky about how you were handling the music?
My name is Larry Reynolds.
It was very interesting.
I am Mr. Stevenson's court-appointed public defender. I represented him at the initial 72-hour hearing and remain involved in the case. Your name is indeed on the papers, Lawyer Reynolds.
What he's thinking.
Everything is fine. And you, the judge, turned to the other man. Who are you, and why do you claim to represent Mr. Stevenson?
The Stooges and
Thank you,
Iggy
Your Honor.
Started and
My name is
your
Era
favorite
Abbott,
bands
and I was hired directly
huge.
by Mr. Stevenson
and it took
to represent
30 years for one of
I have a
the Stooges
printout
to go
confirming
gold.
the transfer of funds from his bank account to mine.
Because of the Nike
This is very unusual.
Yeah, it was some
Most people who
like
come to me
that.
hardly have one lawyer, but here they have two.
He has the
Are
longest
you working
time
on this
release
case
of-
together?
I'm
No,
aware of
Your
where
Honor.
You
They
put
both
out records
replied.
and people actively
The judge
hate
turned
you
to me.
more than they
As
like
far as
you.
I understand,
And
you are
people
Mr.
couldn't stand
Stevenson
the Stooges
under the
when they came out.
supervision
And so
of a psychiatric clinic.
And
Are you
everyone,
able to answer my questions?
It took
Yes,
30
Your Honor.
years.
I am fully
for
aware
what
of
he
everything
did to
that
be
is happening,
recognized
and I'm ready
properly
to
and
answer your
understood.
questions.
And that is
Okay,
a lonely
thank you,
amount
sir.
of time in between.
How do you
It's
explain
just
having two
is.
lawyers
he
claiming
made
to represent
tons of
you?
records.
Your
Tons
Honor,
of records,
the fact
but
is that I had
oftentimes
never heard of
Iggy
or met
gives
Mr.
his
Reynolds
100%,
until now.
Always.
But
I know
he'll
nothing
collaborate
about
with someone
him
at
and do
times
not
where you're
accept
like,
his
don't
representation
do
in
that.
my interests.
Don't do that.
Dr. Etterl intervened
And so he's
and
putting
jumped up.
100% on
If I
top
may,
of something
Your
that's
Honor,
40%.
I'm Dr.
But you guys
Etterl,
made a
Mr.
great
Stevenson's
record, and the
treating
concert was great.
psychiatrist.
It was just
As you
fun.
can see,
And he is
in
100%
handcuffs
all in
for
all the
his
time.
and your safety.
Oh, yeah.
But
He is not in his right
it's
mind
weird
and
because
playing
even Lust
games
for
like
Life,
he is doing now.
That didn't get the
To
attention
the best
it
of my
deserved until
knowledge,
Trainspotting,
Larry Reynolds
Really?
is Mr.
Right, the
Stevenson's
movie,
only
because
attorney
it was like a
and should
big
be
part of that
recognized
movie.
as such.
And then I know the
Thank you
story
for your statement,
of
Dr. Etterl.
Search
If
and
this is
Destroy
true,
showing up
then
on that
this
Nike
issue
ad.
is
Right.
easy
That
to
was in,
resolve.
Mr.
Mr. Stevenson,
because
go
my
ahead.
buddy, do you know
Yes,
John Daniel?
thank you, Your
at
Honor.
Crush Management?
I did
He's a
hire
good guy.
Era Abbott to represent me, and
but
I
he
want
was
him to
in
represent me this
publishing.
morning.
He knew the guy.
My freedom is at
He was-
stake.
he was just
Your
a dude
Honor,
looking at
and I want the
titles.
best
Yeah, right.
representation
For a
I can
commercial.
afford.
Right.
You know,
I
on a
hope I still
catalog.
have the
Right.
legal
And he
right
got
to
Search
choose
and
my
Destroy.
own lawyer.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
That's amazing.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yeah,
you
let's
have
hear
such
that.
a right.
Yeah.
It
Let
had
me
nothing
clarify.
to do with Iggy.
Did you
Right.
meet
And
with
then it
attorney
became
Era
huge.
Abbott prior to this
good for
morning
him.
to discuss your
he
case?
had this thing. He
Era
also
Abbott
did.
spoke. Your Honor,
because
I have 6 signed statements from the mental health facility that confirm that I was denied access to my client for 6 days in a row. They argued that he already had a representative and did not allow Mr. Stevenson to clear up the confusion. I did everything possible to meet with my client, but I was not allowed to be alone with him until this point. Show me these statements, the judge ordered. The bailiff handed over the documents. These documents look quite legitimate, he commented. This must be a simple misunderstanding or personnel error, Your Honor, Dr. Edel said. Common human error. Our staff is very overworked. I see, the judge grumbled, because Mr. Stevenson has made it clear that he wants Era Abbott to represent him. Larry Reynolds is relieved of any involvement in this matter and disclaims any responsibility for its outcome.
I don't call as much as I want to.
Your Honor, given that I made every effort to meet with my client and was denied.
I don't know. Maybe
may I be given an hour to consult with my client before proceeding with the case?
Argued. You know what I mean?
That sounds reasonable,
what'd you argue about?
Well, I put it off for an hour.
I think
we will consider the next agenda item.
Legit,
bailiff finds a conference room for them, but the orderly must remain with Mr. Stevenson at all times.
You have disagreements.
Thank you,
That's
Your
what
Honor.
friends need to have.
Era,
This isn't
David,
an ask his
and I followed the bailiff into conference room
beginning. Carol,
Mary Beth, Ben, and Dr. Edel followed.
But it's not my job to simply
be
say yes to everything.
Could you please ask them to leave the room while I consult with my lawyer?
Sure. And so
the bailiff asked them to leave, much to their displeasure. I discussed with Era all the details and strategy for my hearing, as well as the reasons why I wanted to proceed this way. He said it was unusual, but he understood me and fully supported me. David's eyes widened at some of my words, but Era warned him that everything he heard was privileged information that should not be disclosed.
But he did that knowing what he was doing.
Era then left us to notify the court that we were ready to continue the hearing.
I think so. I'd like to.
An hour and 15 minutes later, we were called back into the courtroom. The prosecutor began questioning Dr. Edel. Yes, sir, that's right. Mrs. Stevenson, his wife, came to me in a state of extreme anxiety, claiming that her husband had become delusional and making irrational decisions that were greatly harming his life. She also stated that he became aggressive and hit her.
He is who he says he is.
She explained that she would never have filed a police report against him because he was out of his mind.
I was like,
she begged me to treat him and help him get back to normal. We took him away, and her conclusions were confirmed in my presence.
I'm this.
He behaved extremely irrationally.
This is what it is.
I push back on it.
He suffers from autism, which may explain his mental instability. At the 72-hour hearing, I felt that he continued to pose a threat to himself and others, so the court granted me the right to detain him until today's hearing. I still believe he needs further treatment at our facility to return to reality. Therefore, I am asking for his indefinite involuntary placement in our custody.
That's for sure.
Thank you, Dr. Edel.
All of it.
I hope you can help this person.
How are you feeling about you?
It's your turn,
I feel great.
lawyer.
Are you
the prosecutor's office has completed its questions.
Have you arrived at yourself?
The prosecutor announced. Era Abbott rose to cross-examine. Dr. Edel, did Mrs. Stevenson mention any details regarding the irrational accusations and decisions that she said caused her anxiety?
When we talked,
yes, she said that he was delusional and accused her of voluntarily participating in some kind of debauchery with his boss and many other participants. Moreover, due to his psychotic delusions, he attempted to quit on the very day he was promoted to $1 million a year
I gotta say,
position.
every time
She
I always
believed that
feel
a person in his right
really
mind would not do such a thing.
I would hope so.
His self-destructive behavior was having a detrimental effect on their marriage and career.
I never felt so alive as I did the day.
And for the past week, Mr. Stevenson has been under your constant supervision and tutelage.
I had a little bit of cancer for a sec.
Yes, that's true.
Which kind?
May I assume that you had several personal conversations with him to assess his condition and confirm the words of his wife?
But I was able to get it so early that surgery was the way.
My sessions with him were not aimed at confirming anyone's words, but at assessing his mental health and determining whether he was a threat to himself or others.
I coughed blood on
the snow. And you confirm your professional opinion that he is aggressive and poses a threat to himself and others. Yes, sir, that's right.
He attacked
our staff and orderlies parties and behaved disgustingly. That's why he's in handcuffs. But don't get me wrong,
but it looked
Mr. Stevenson is not hopeless. I believe a breakthrough could happen any day. But until then, he needs our constant professional care. This is your opinion. What is interesting to me, however, is that Mr. Stevenson did not show the slightest aggressiveness in the courtroom. How do you explain this? In my opinion, he is able to exercise short-term self-control in order to achieve what he wants.
How long was the recovery
Perhaps he hopes that his good behavior will influence the court's decision to terminate his stay in our institution. This would be a huge mistake. Let me return to the previous question. How many face-to-face conversations have you had with Mr. Stevenson in the past week to evaluate him?
I'm trying to do the hometown buffet.
That's easy to answer.
Oh my God,
6 sessions, 1 per day, each lasting 1 hour, from 2 to 3 p.m. Are you sure about this, Dr. Edo?
Sometimes, and so those
just a minute, sir.
They make me
This
pause.
is my memory, but let me check the notes.
In those moments
he
of
took the
reflection,
notepad out of his pocket and checked the notes.
After that,
Well,
yes,
I mean,
I can confirm.
When you come out of something like that,
the sessions were held daily
because
at
your
the
songs
specified time.
are pretty.
He was usually at his calmest a couple of hours after lunch.
When you come
let
out
me remind you that you are under oath, Dr. Edo.
Run-in with
there is no need to remind me of this, sir. I have attended hundreds of such hearings.
Song about suturing
this
the future.
information is absolutely accurate.
No,
he replied arrogantly.
It's an old one.
Thank you, sir.
Is that a cover of you?
I wanted to clarify this for the record.
So it's
That's all I have for now, Your Honor. But I reserve the right to call a witness again if necessary. The judge nodded.
Versions.
You may leave the witness stand, Dr. Edo. Thank you. Era continued.
Say,
if you please, the court. The defense calls Mrs. Mary Beth Stevenson to the witness stand.
Okay.
Mary Beth was sworn in and took the witness stand. Mrs. Stevenson, tell the court about the events that led to your husband's involuntary placement in custody.
We're doing some recording now.
Yes, sir. Andrew and I attended the company Christmas ball hosted by Mr. Ben Higgins, CEO of Higgins Investments and Andrew's boss. And immediately after Don Sharp announced his retirement, Mr. Higgins announced the exciting news that Andrew would be promoted to this position and join the board of directors. It was the proudest moment of my life.
But the fear of it.
However, after about an hour, Andrew began acting strangely and making false accusations against me, claiming that I had been unfaithful to him with his boss, Ben Higgins. Ben and I were terrified. We had no idea where Andrew could have come up with such thoughts. He became verbally and physically aggressive towards me and left the event in a fit of rage. He'd had weird episodes before,
a lifetime
but this
of
was
trying
different.
to accept things
Perhaps
as
his
they
new
are,
assignment put him under too much pressure.
Hold on too tight
he told
to
Ben
something.
Higgins he was quitting and left, and I went home with him.
Wanting to be
we
that
had
way.
a big fight,
and it's
he
hard
kept
to do.
repeating his crazy accusations and hit me when I tried to stop him from leaving.
It's powerlessness.
He packed several suitcases, cut his wedding ring into pieces, and threw it to me, after which he left in the car.
Turning over is
do you know where he went after he left your house?
A skill that
I
seems
can't
like you
say
have
for
to develop
sure.
and not a talent
But
you're
2
born
days
with.
later, I found him at his parents' house, answering his father's phone.
Something your whole life,
I begged him
just
to
have
come
that
back.
personality.
And how did he react?
I have an addict's
he spoke
personality.
as if he had ceased to be himself.
The
he was
idea
so confused
of being
that he called me Miss Meadows, my maiden name, and acted as if we had never been married.
It's not like
and since he was at his parents' house and had previously been violent towards me, I began to worry for their safety. Given their advanced age and weakness, unlike me, they would not be able to cope with a physical attack.
Here I am.
So let me get this straight for the record. You are saying that you never entered into an intimate relationship with Ben Higgins that would have made Andrew want to end his relationship with you, correct?
I'm not much of a runner.
Yes, that's true.
So
I danced with him at a party, like with others, in a completely innocent environment.
A big one.
There was never anything intimate between Mr. Higgins and me. There was no betrayal. This is all a figment of Andrew's imagination.
Finally,
he needs help, and I want him to get it so he can come home.
And I was like, oh, no one's going to say anything.
And I want only the best for you.
I've been around for 40-some years at the time when I heard this, and I was like,
thank you,
nobody else is going to say.
That's all I have for now.
Nobody here.
Your Honor, with your permission, I would like to call Mr. Ben Higgins to the witness stand.
Yeah, and a little sexier.
The prosecutor objected again.
For sure.
Like I'd hang that on my wall.
This is a waste of the court's time.
Don't give up.
What relevance does Mr. Higgins' evidence have to the hearing on Mr. Stevenson's placement into to compulsory
Don't
treatment.
give up. Give
The judge looked at Era.
So that helped you. It's funny how these little
Era
twists,
replied,
these little turns of phrases.
Your Honor, this man has been his employer for 20 years.
Is that where you're at?
It was argued that Andrew's behavior showed his insanity as he resigned after being promoted with $1 million salary. This witness may shed some light on this issue. The objection is rejected. I'll let you continue, lawyer, but don't go too far off topic, okay? Understood, Your Honor. Thank you. Then Higgins was sworn in and took the witness stand in Mary Beth's place.
That's been my protocol for the last couple years.
Mr. Higgins, before the recent incident with Andrew that we are talking about here today, how would you characterize him as an employee? It's easy. I would call him an exemplary employee, smart, honest, and hardworking. I have watched him grow and develop over all the years that he has worked for us. I wish I had 10 more like him. That's why I offered him a seat on the board of directors and a handsome salary. High praise for the man who accused you of having a sexual relationship with his wife. Do you have any idea what could have provoked such a reaction on his part? Ben looked annoyed at the question. I can't say. He's a good person. His mind just failed.
Buddy,
I need him to get back to work.
In a cave,
it is almost impossible to replace
whatever you did.
You don't know or don't want to say, Mr. Higgins. Let me rephrase the question. During today's hearing, it was stated that your employee, Andrew Stevenson, accused you of having an intimate relationship with his wife. In order for the court to better understand Andrew's condition at that time, can you categorically state that there is no truth to this statement? Have you ever had intimate contact with Andrew Stevenson's wife, Mary Beth Stevenson?
I don't know if you can identify it.
I never had any intimate relations with Mrs. Stevenson.
I came here,
I truly feel for Andrew. His mind doesn't work like yours or mine.
This is going to go well.
He is special, and as far as I know, he has visual hallucinations. We all support you, Andrew. Come back to us as soon as you can.
List for
thank you, Mr. Higgins.
When I'm performing.
You can sit down.
Got paid. Which is,
I tried to remain calm and non-emotional while Mary Beth and Ben testified so that any negative facial expressions would not be interpreted as aggression. After this, Era turned to the judge. Your Honor, if I may, I would like to present as evidence these audio and video recordings copied from the archives of a psychiatric institution where my client was involuntarily treated.
I don't know what that is.
I protest, Your Honor. The prosecution was not notified in advance of this evidence and therefore could not review it.
Really? I like being the Vegemite on your toast.
Until this morning, the court did not even know that I represented Mr. Stevenson.
So,
as his attorney, I requested archived video footage of the patient's room during his stay in the facility, suggesting that it might be needed to refute the testimony. I have certified documents confirming that these videos have not been altered in any way and are an accurate representation of Andrew's condition.
Was there any sort of connection
to that? The judge objected.
That drove you to
the arguments are reasonable, lawyer. I will contact the person who signed this document to independently confirm its authenticity. If your statement is true, I will approve
2015,
it. The court announces a break for 30 minutes.
I killed a lot of people.
During the break, Era asked David to take me to the conference room to rest.
I was,
He instructed David to feed me crackers and give me soda to drink.
Ex-wife was pregnant with
the three conspirators were not allowed to approach me. After a break, the trial resumed.
I was doing the American tour.
The recordings were officially accepted as evidence. And Dr. Ederl looked very concerned. Era continued his defense and asked the judge if anyone present could play the DVDs in the courtroom.
On the European tour.
Anticipating the request, the judge called Sandra, the clerk, to comply with Era's request. Sandra, you have 6 DVDs in your hands, each of which corresponds to one of Andrew's 6 days in a mental institution.
No rehearsal came.
Please select any disc from any day and rewind the recording to the timestamp of 14 o'clock.
And then I waved them goodbye, and they went.
It will take a minute or two.
On
the screen, she moved the slider to the 14 o'clock mark, and the video began to play. There I was in the center of the screen, quietly resting alone. There was no one else in the room.
You cannot be
Can you turn up the volume? I can't hear Dr. Ederl talking to Andrew.
You cannot be prepared for
the volume is already turned up to maximum, sir. It looks like there really is no one in the room, and Mr. Stevenson is also silent.
Was that after?
Interesting.
It turned out it was
then
before.
rewind the video at 30-second intervals.
Why were you
until Dr. Ederl arrives
they
for
were
the
going
session.
They were going to.
Of course, sir. This will save us time.
Specific to us.
Sandra clicked the rewind button,
it was all part
but
of
no one
calculated.
appeared in the room for a whole hour.
Why the
Your
Eagles
Honor,
of death
it
metal?
appears there has been a mistake. Dr. Ederl never showed up for the session that day. Instead of calling the doctor back to the stand, can I ask him to respond from his seat with the correct time to view the video?
Which I'll probably keep that way, but
the judge agreed. Dr. Ederl, please stand up and tell the clerk the date and time you conducted the session with the patient. Let me remind you, you are still under oath. The doctor stood up, nervously flipping through his notes.
To happen, for them.
Sorry, Your Honor, I think I lost my session schedule.
Satan.
It's okay.
The Bataclan has a history.
Yesterday's session will do.
Holy space?
Can you remember the approximate time?
It's a Jewish-owned venue.
Well, my memory is not what it used to be, Your Honor. That's why I always take notes.
Protests.
Sorry, but I can't give you the exact time.
Was that why you guys chose it?
Era chimed in.
We chose it.
Your Honor, I personally watched all 6 DVDs.
So
Dr. Ederl did not have a single session with my client all week. We do not have time to verify my findings right now, and my testimony as an attorney may be perceived as biased.
It was a coordinated attack.
Therefore, I invite the doctor to name any day out of 6 when he definitely conducted a session with my client.
Got killed.
While the clerk is looking for a recording of a non-existent session, I would like to continue defending my client.
Jesse got out.
His freedom and reputation are on the line, Your Honor, and I'm sure we all want to hear the truth.
My pals made it out.
The judge, aware that the respected psychiatrist seemed to have lied in the courtroom, glanced at the doctor. Dr. Ederl, can you name one date on which you conducted a session with Mr. Stevenson as previously stated? Sorry, Your Honor, I can't.
We were just recording,
he admitted and gave in, sitting back down in his seat.
I got this call from my friend Scotty.
In that case, Your Honor, I suggest that you do not waste the clerk's time searching for non-existent sessions and consider that Dr. Ederl has withdrawn his previous testimony.
That's not my blood. Is that my blood?
Moreover, viewing the video recordings will show that during the entire 7-day period of Andrew's stay in the institution, he did not show a single act of aggression. Being tied up for a week would drive anyone crazy, but my client behaved in an extremely exemplary manner. I can bring a witness from among the employees of the institution who will confirm his calm behavior, but this person is afraid of losing his job. If you deem it necessary, the witness is ready to testify. The judge called both sides to his table. Attorney Abbott, are you ready to present this witness right now?
Grabbed his pack of cigarettes.
Yes, Your Honor.
A box of...
Fine. I want to see you 3 in my office in 5 minutes with the witness.
And my motorcycle helmet got in my car.
Era met Wanda in the court lobby.
Why did I grab this?
The judge wants to hear your testimony in his room. Because this is only a hearing and not a formal jury trial. The judge has the right to protect you from the consequences of your testimony on your job.
That was.
Wanda entered the judge's office with both lawyers. After a short introduction, the judge began.
No, we actually
This is a private meeting to establish the truth. Everything said here remains strictly confidential. Is this clear? Everyone nodded. Now, madam, can you confirm that you work at the mental institution where Mr. Stevenson was detained?
My bandmates.
Yes, Your Honor. Here is my employee card and digital access card giving me access to the facility. You can contact anyone using the facility number, and any employee will describe me, confirming my face from the photo on the ID.
Which was a very short.
The judge nodded.
Interesting. So
your identity does not need to be confirmed. Tell us about your impressions of communicating with Mr. Stevenson over the past week.
How much later?
Yes, Your Honor. Andrew is one of the kindest people I have ever met, both inside and outside the institution. He did not show the slightest aggression towards any of the employees.
My son
I spent a total of about 8 hours a day with him for 5 of the 7 days. To be honest, I tried to spend more time with him than was necessary because I thought he was a very interesting person. I have also spoken to other employees who have been in contact with him, and they all agree with my opinion.
The next day because I was like,
Wanda,
I need to,
if he was so friendly and obedient, why was he in handcuffs all week? Isn't that weird?
I saw my son.
Your
I held
Honor.
him.
The only reason is the urgent instructions of Dr. Ederl, who directly forbade his release. None of the employees understood why.
It was not at that venue.
This created extra work for us.
At the time, it's open.
We had to feed him, wash him, use ducks and boats.
It was
He could have done all this himself, but he was not allowed.
In the process,
the judge thanked Wanda. You have been a great help.
Combed over
Let me remind you that discussion of this meeting outside the courtroom is
was
prohibited.
Necessary there, right? So,
After which the three returned to the hall where the hearing resumed. The judge announced the order again. Is there any more evidence the defense wants to present, or can we consider the defense over?
So,
Era replied,
I know that
yes, Your Honor.
Each in their own way
if I may,
had to deal
the
with
defense has one more short video recording that we would like to present as a direct rebuttal to previous witness testimony.
I mean, I know
for the same reasons I mentioned earlier, I could not provide this evidence earlier.
Important to the story.
The judge looked at the prosecutor.
And that ultimately,
any objections?
Reaction-wise?
The prosecutor just threw up his hands.
It was hard.
I don't think it matters anymore, Your Honor. In the interests of justice, we have no objection.
It was hard to.
You said the recording would take no more than 5 minutes? The judge
my main concern was bringing everyone home.
Yes, Your Honor,
and bring
5 minutes maximum.
Right, but party was like,
okay, present your proof.
I had a lot of.
What is the purpose of this video? Your Honor, it is directly related to the motivation of all parties involved in the case. We believe this video will help clear up much of the controversy surrounding Andrew's behavior at the ill-fated party.
Oh, so these are fans
show
that you had a
me.
relationship
The judge
with.
agreed.
Yeah, and
Era used his laptop to download the video from cloud storage and copied it to a USB drive. He then handed the device to Sandra, who began playing the video in the courtroom. There were gasps of surprise from the screen as the video showed a naked Mary Beth satisfying Ben Higgins. Their faces were clearly visible in high definition. Nothing could be interpreted otherwise. Ben jumped up from his seat.
Emotional,
I protest. Stop this immediately.
That you're just
Stop playing this slanderous recording.
What do
he demanded. Sandra looked at the judge, who nodded, and she paused the playback. But the entire 5-minute segment was unnecessary. The damage to their reputation had already been done.
What your own place
Ben continued
in the
furiously.
world is, and
where
then
did you
how
get
to
this
deal
recording? How could you even get your hands on something like that?
Regret and
Era replied,
all that stuff.
Your Honor, I would like to call my final witness who can answer this question, Andrew Stevenson.
You got me to talk about like
said the
getting
judge.
off drugs.
But first I order that all restrictions on Mr. Stevenson be lifted. He will be treated like a human being and not an animal in my courtroom. David removed all restrictions from me.
To a situation
I
like
rose
that,
to my feet and walked toward the witness stand my first steps in a week. Era began the interrogation.
Andrew, none of it is about
can you explain to the court what this video recording is?
You're like, I need to shut the fuck up and never talk about this.
This is an unedited recording of my wife, Mary Beth Stevenson, having sexual intercourse with the CEO of my employer,
sort of contrary
Mr. Ben Higgins,
your story
at Mr.
always
Higgins' home.
Because you're the one who
tell the court how this recording came to you.
And you were the one that caused a lot of your own fucking misery.
I recorded their actions on my phone through a one-way mirror in the bedroom where I was being held against my will.
Out of your control.
Was physically not allowed to leave.
And you watch
Mr. Higgins told me that by allowing him to use my wife for his pleasure, I would demonstrate my loyalty to him and secure my promotion.
And you just think,
I copied the recording to my cloud storage and erased it from my phone. I then fled through the bedroom window and drove away in my car.
I have only the right to shut up and listen.
Did you ever approve of the intimate relationship between Ben Higgins and your wife?
What I realized,
no, sir, is I made it clear to both of them that this behavior would result in my divorce from Mary Beth.
And it does not
there was
matter
no ambiguity.
If you like them or not. They are
the prosecutor could not resist. Your Honor, I protest.
Get hung up on,
this questioning is beyond the scope of the case.
If you do or do
what is
not
the connection
like
between this and Mr. Stevenson's forced hospitalization?
This is where I'm so appreciative of like my grandparents and my parents.
I'm very glad you asked, prosecutor.
Great people.
This is directly relevant. Mr. Stevenson's evidence was confirmed as true.
About you right
At the
now,
same time, the doctor who was supposed to treat him was exposed as a liar.
This is actually
what motivation could he have?
A massive part of
possibly
everyday
Mr.
life for
Higgins'
many
money.
People. Just
in addition, my client's wife, who demanded his hospitalization, also turned out to be a liar.
And cry later. This
Your
is
Honor,
the perfect time
these
for
three
you
are conspiring to destroy my client for their own interests.
And show up.
Yeah.
The judge raised his hand to stop the discussion. I saw and heard enough to know that this innocent man was the victim of a conspiracy.
That must have.
Mr. Stevenson,
at least
you are free to go. The mental health facility no longer has the right to detain
your fans, yourself.
The judge continued.
And
Mr. Attorney, I suggest you return to your office and make it your priority to file charges against Dr. Eder, Mrs. Mary Beth Stevenson and Mr. Ben Higgins for conspiracy, false commitment, perjury, and any other offenses you deem appropriate.
For you to
the prosecutor nodded in agreement. Era turned to the judge. Your Honor, before concluding this hearing, I request that a restraining order be signed for Mrs. Mary Beth Stevenson and Mr. Ben Higgins to restrain my client.
Right now. And
given what was revealed today, they have already proven that they pose a threat to him physically, mentally, and in terms of ruining his marriage. All the details are indicated in the document, which I will now hand over to the bailiff. The judge took the document and looked at it. This seems reasonable and justified under the circumstances. I signed this order. Bailiff, make sure both receive copies of this injunction before leaving the courtroom. If any of them break it and try to contact Mr. Stevenson at home, at work, or in any other way, they will end up in front of me again, and then they won't like it. Am I making myself clear? Both nodded, understanding the seriousness of the judge's words. Mrs. Stevenson, you will have to arrange through a lawyer for the collection of your personal effects from the home you shared with Mr. Stevenson until this restraining order expires or is lifted.
And
the judge hit the gavel.
And
I declare this hearing closed. All case materials must be entered into a permanent archive. The court announces a 15-minute break before the next case.
Do not know what to do.
The bailiff commanded. I ask everyone to stand up.
And so they naturally
and with
stay
that,
away, or
my
they
life
make
suddenly began to change for the better.
I
thank Era from the bottom of my heart, saying that no matter how much he wanted for his services, it was worth every cent. He replied that although he accepted my deposit to formalize the case, he would return every penny to me because of the gratitude he felt for my family on my mother's side.
But
I
it's
hugged
the
him
most
and
human
thanked
of
him again.
things. It's just
Era
the fact
took me
that
to my parents' house since my car was still there. I spent the whole day with them, thanking them for finding such a talented lawyer for me.
We all try to
I called the flower shop and sent 3 dozen roses to the mental health facility as a thank you to all the hardworking employees.
Not think about it.
As the day
ended,
it's going to
happen to everybody. It's going to happen to people around you, right?
So because there's not any sort of logic to the house I used to call my own
language around it,
was just a house
people
now,
just freak
out.
Everyone's freaked out about death. That's the entire capitalist system is driven by that.
Because I intended to file for divorce from Mary Beth.
Eat some stuff. Buy some
shit. Not knowing if Ben came to our house and slept in our bed with her, I decided to move my things to one of the other bedrooms with a private bathroom.
I don't care.
I made sure nothing of mine was left in the master bedroom and did not touch Mary Beth's things. She could take everything she had, but only in my absence. I discovered that my phone, which I had left at Higgins' house, had been returned to the house and put on charge. I decided to save my spare phone for a rainy day and start using my old one again.
I don't know,
given that Mary Beth and Ben were prohibited from contacting
approach
after getting comfortable,
and your
I finally enjoyed my first peaceful night's
sort of
sleep
how
in
much
7
you've
days.
Grown over the years in
Elizabeth's
terms of being
phone
an artist,
call roused
and
me
also
from my slumber the following morning.
It's not really. It may be
Dad,
escapism,
I
but
hope
music
you're proud of yourself.
is
Hi,
informed
Liz.
by feelings.
Proud of myself for what?
And
for the fact that you single-handedly destroyed yours and your mother's lives.
A space of emotion
Andy
for those
and
who listen
Daisy
to
came
it.
to my house
that
last
is really
night,
theirs to do
where
what they're going
Mom
to do.
explained
There's
the
nothing
terrible
like music,
things you did.
in the sense that once it's out
clear.
there, it
and
can
what
get
do you
through
think
people,
I did to your mother?
people through any number
She
of
said
things.
you saw her do the same
you have no
dance
idea
with your boss
who
Ben
got it, where it
Higgins
went
at the
to,
company
and what they
Christmas
did.
party,
Sure,
and
how
it drove
they
you
used
crazy.
this tool.
Right, how
She
it
said
helped
you
them.
left her there in his house. Said you wanted a divorce
them process
and quit your $1 million job just to spite her.
It's weird because I
she
do
doesn't
draw
know
some
why
sort
you
of
left her
strange
or what
line
happened
in
to
my
you.
head now that we're
She
just
also
talking
said that
about
you
and
kicked
thinking
her out
out
of her
loud
own
between
house
something
and
that
obtained
is
a court
inherently
order banning her from
escapist
approaching you.
and something that
wow,
is
Dad, you did
a true
everything
expression
except shoot her with a gun.
of
Liz,
art or
she interrupted me.
or whatever it
Mom
is
told
that
all three of
comes
them
from a
not to
place
listen to your lies.
that is
Are you living
informed
with
by
another
one's own
woman,
struggle.
Dad?
Well,
is it all because of this?
For me,
so you're on your mother's side and don't want to listen to me.
Escape is
about that,
the
Dad.
entryway to this.
Then why did you even call me, Liz, if you don't want to hear my side of the story?
All the marketing out front is like,
I called to find out why, Dad.
Quick, take
why
a minute
are you
away.
doing this to your
that's
mom?
my way to get you
why
in the
did you
door.
ruin
I will
your
turn the
marriage and
lights out.
career?
and
there
you
must
and your
be another
best friends
woman.
all make the
Just
music
tell
loud,
the
and
truth.
you guys can conspire.
I was
together.
angry at Mary Beth for lying to the children and turning them against me. Mary Beth probably doesn't believe that I could give her away to her children by showing that video of her cheating. I couldn't blame the kids for believing their mother, but I was very disappointed that they wouldn't listen to my side. Do you want answers? You will find them in court. Write down this number, Liz, case number 37692, regarding the involuntary placement of Mr. Andrew Stevenson in the clinic.
I know that some people listen to music on the way to the bank, and that's not my fault.
You said you were calling for answers.
But that's
I will
not
tell you where to
I'm
find
at.
them. I will read the materials from that court
when they're
hearing.
at their worst to
it
be
will be
like,
instructive.
I know what to
Liz,
play.
I think it is wonderful that you are supporting your mother.
And I guess that's
She will need
escapism.
all
I
the
guess I'm
comfort
drawing
and
a
support
hard
you
line.
three can give her.
You know, like
especially
obviously,
after our
let's
divorce.
enter this world.
If you,
that
Andy
isn't
and
the
Daisy
world,
decide to never
is
speak to me
escapism.
again,
But, once
and
you're in the
her,
world,
so
like,
be it.
we're going
but
to
if
do
you are
some
the
shit.
smart young woman I raised and loved with all my heart,
it's not
study
mindless.
the
I guess
official
that's
court records in
the
this
distinction
case.
I'm
Tell
not
Andy
making.
and
It's like,
Daisy
there's
I
some part
love
of my
them
brain
as
that
much
thinks
as I love
escapism
you.
is mindless.
Goodbye, Liz.
It's not.
After that, I
think
ended
that's
the
why
call.
I
Only
love,
time will tell what
I
will
always
come of
thought
it.
like marketing.
Shortly
That's what
after
the
I hung
devil
up,
would do.
my phone rang again.
That is the devil.
Hi, Andrew.
But I thought, well,
This
okay,
is
what
Bill
if I
Spencer
re-engineer
Jr.,
that to my
the
purpose?
new head
and
of the
it's funny.
prospects division.
That's the deal you made with the devil.
I know very well who
like,
you
it's
are,
like, come on
Bill,
in now.
and
You
who
wanna-
your
you know,
father is.
I'll give you a night you'll never
As you
remember.
probably know,
all
I
that
retired
shit. You
from
with the
Higgins
face. Get in
Investments,
here.
so we are no longer
And
colleagues.
I love that carnival
Yes,
barking.
that's exactly
attraction.
what I'm calling about.
I because
Andrew,
it has taboo
I would be
and
honored
danger
to treat you to lunch today
but so
at
much
any
of rock and roll is
restaurant you
about that,
name
too.
at my expense.
Yeah, but that's really
I know
only the
about your
facade
feud
of
with
this,
Ben.
and it's not.
It has
it's a
nothing to
facade,
do
but
with
it's not
him,
fake.
and I
It's
swear
just the
he won't
front
be there.
entryway of
This
it's
will
a
be
fine
between
line
us.
between carnival barking.
I was intrigued.
A
He knows
snake
I
oil
quit,
salesman
but still wants
and
to meet.
preaching.
Right.
Let it cost him a pretty penny, I thought. I named
really
one
the
of the
same
most
guy,
expensive
totally.
restaurants in the city.
Right, and so
okay, Bill,
because that is
treat
the way,
me to lunch at Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse at 1 p.m. Still interested?
That hook,
of course, I'm interested,
like
Andrew.
The
Great
teasing
choice.
and the tricking.
See
and
you at 1 o'clock.
You know, the releasing of little things.
I have
it's
never
fun
been to such an
It's
expensive
to
restaurant
tantalize.
before.
Put on a show, man.
Mary Beth mentioned several times that we should try it, but I knew it was too expensive.
Sitting down
it didn't make sense to spend that much money on one dinner, even though I was earning significantly more than her.
Yeah. Well, that's
Bill
like
arrived right on
magic,
time.
You know?
Yeah,
we placed our orders and started chatting as soon as our appetizers
you
arrived.
cannot like someone's
You're
music.
probably wondering why I suggested we meet, Andrew. Honestly, the reason is selfish.
Music in the world, and I'll
you
show
really
you
annoyed
people
Ben.
that are ready to die for
I don't know all the details. But like I said, I didn't call you to talk about him.
No,
when it became clear that you would never return to Higgins Investments,
different than
he
anything
decided
else
to promote his second choice to the position
exists in the
vacated by
ether,
Don Sharp,
and it never
rather
goes
than
away.
You.
Yeah,
I
and
now
you can just pull
understand
it out
very
of
well
the ether,
why you quit
and it
why
works
you
its
are now
magic
living
every time for
separately
you.
from your wife.
And much like ether, it's got this intoxicating
I also
effect.
had to pass the same loyalty test
where
they
you're
offered
kind of like altered.
My wife and I decided to take it because of the huge financial benefits and additional bonuses.
That you get.
I don't blame you for giving up this lifestyle. On the contrary, I am immensely grateful to you because thanks to this, I received amazing opportunities, both financial and personal.
Like a first date.
I don't hold it against you, Bill. Obviously, you and I are completely different people.
Until it doesn't,
everyone
and
has
wait
their
a couple
own
months
preferences.
And you kick it on again.
Congratulations.
But
that's not the reason you wanted to meet.
Wait, this is Foreigner. Feels like
you
the first
could brag on the phone.
Which
so
some people love. Some people are replaying that song.
We interrupted our conversation as the waiters
Foreigner
served the main courses and refreshed the drinks. Everything looked and smelled
Foreigner
absolutely amazing.
No, please
You're right,
don't do
of
it
course,
to yourselves.
Andrew. I would like to use your brilliant mind if you allow me.
Some of the reels
it depends on the context, Bill.
Now
that I have taken over from you as Vice President of Outlook at Higgins Investments, the responsibility falls on my shoulders to identify companies that are worth acquiring or merging to continue the company's success that you and don't have provided for years.
But he's one of the only ones, and you get
the hardest thing to possibly do for music.
I know very well what the responsibilities of this position are.
It's like eventually you can sit down and play that shit.
I've been doing this for many years.
It's a pre-old.
Of course you do, Andrew. That's why I called you.
Age.
You see, I'm just getting into the swing of things, and I would like to achieve at least half of your success.
He's just sitting.
Now, I have only one really promising option,
somehow or
and
another,
like many of your projects
still
with Don,
kind of menacing
it was yours
and sexy.
from the beginning.
Those guys like
before Don left, he talked to my dad about Simtech medical
Devices
I mean, like
Corp.
Keith is doing okay.
I assigned a team of 4 people
Mick
to
is
do
sort
a
of like,
thorough study of
okay,
this company.
yeah, you keep doing
and their
it.
findings were very promising.
If you're
the company produces defibrillators,
you want to keep rooting them on, but
and left
there's a line
ventricular
cross
assist
where I'm
devices,
like,
competing with giants such as Medtronic, Johnson & Johnson, Abbott, and
guys
Philips,
like Leonard
each of
Cohen,
which earns more than $20 billion a year.
Wow, this is still.
I remember talking to Don about this company, but
music lends itself
Bill
to it.
interrupted me. I have a copy of your letter sent to Don. Everything there sounds like a refusal. You wrote that the company is not as green as you would like.
It needs to keep changing.
That's right,
and
Bill.
Preparing itself.
That's why
for
I didn't give her full approval.
Well, yeah,
I wanted Don to keep this company on his radar for further study
really, because
until more complete data became available.
Sometimes you watch some old fuckers on
Andrew,
stage and you're like, for God's sake.
I can't understand your decision-making system, but your results speak for themselves.
Can you hand out these don'ts I just made?
That is not the reason why I wanted to meet you.
I get it, because it's actually the most dangerous game for any musician.
It seems to me that while Simtech may indeed be a good company to buy, you may be saving a better option for yourself. You knew the promotion would be yours.
In a way that's still.
I'm sure you had another more successful candidate for your first offer to Ben.
Sure.
How about it, Andrew?
If they can
Could you
still
share
deliver
this name
the goods,
so I can make a good impression
it'll
right
lift
away?
it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bill.
But there are moments like, Guns is out there, but they're not as old as like the Stones. And they still seem to be delivering. And sometimes I just don't know.
Simtech was the last company I talked to Don about, but I still can't recommend it enough.
The world of that type of competition.
Understood.
But part of me is like,
perhaps you saved something for your next employer.
Right.
You can't need the money,
Andrew.
So what is it?
I just wanted to try my luck.
And then it's just sort of like, well, this is what we do.
Yeah, I suppose it's like comedy in that there's not a real reason to retire.
If you want to recommend Simtech, that's your choice.
Totally.
But the long-term results of your decision, good or bad, will be entirely yours.
But there's an exception there. It's like, your relevance diminishes.
Right.
From what I've heard about you, Andrew, even your third and fourth options are better than most people's first. I'm still going to recommend Simtech to Ben for a quick merger. Because I haven't found anything better.
There's worse ways to go.
I'm sorry, Andrew, for trying to get more out of you.
I think he sees himself as, like, I've kind of reassessed that whole guy recently.
I wish you success in your new position.
Because I don't know why I didn't realize it. He's almost
Since
like
there was nothing particularly important left,
almost like,
and discussion of Ben and his club was prohibited,
savant,
we switched to light, harmless topics.
He's like
After
this
my meeting with
Bill,
I left full and with important new information.
It's almost like a spectrum.
I needed to go back to my computers to understand what was bothering me so much.
Which I think he also is probably
Dr. Edel was indeed charged by the district attorney with multiple charges that could have cost him his license
but I think you have to have a willingness to be like, no, go fuck yourself.
However, this did not happen.
One of the funniest,
While out on bail, Dr. Edel disappeared to the Maldives, seemingly forever.
Interesting thing.
He and his whole family just moved there. Why exactly to the Maldives? This country does not have an extradition treaty with the United States. I assumed that Ben had provided the doctor with a golden parachute. Now he and his family live in luxury and paradise beyond the reach of the law. After Dr. Edel disappeared, the district attorney urgently requested, and the judge agreed, to seize the passports of Ben Higgins and my wife when they were charged. They also faced serious sentences if the charges were proven.
And then you go back and he's got a stack of papers
before they even realized what had happened.
You've been there.
A week later,
and
one
he's
of
like,
Don
this is not good. This might mean we should do this. Did you do a shit stamp?
Contacted me.
No, but I'm still willing to.
She asked to meet in a neutral setting at an expensive restaurant.
He told me
Franny had always been an honest person and happily married, so I knew her proposal was not personal. She refused to discuss anything over the phone, and I agreed to meet her the next day, Tuesday, for lunch.
Does that mean anything to you?
She said the company would pay for lunch.
He said, do you find
Franny
yourself
looked nervous
doing
when I approached her
other
desk.
People? He's like, you can give blood to anyone, but you cannot receive it from anyone.
The same can be said about you, Franny. Now that we're here, what did you want to talk about?
You're a universal donor, but you cannot receive.
Please don't be mad at me, Andrew.
Yeah, that's
thinking back. I don't remember seeing you angry in all the years we worked together.
I think that somehow you are someone that has said yes to things that you probably didn't want to do.
You've always been a great employee, and we've always respected each other.
Pick 5 things you said yes to and cancel them.
Don't let anyone destroy your kindness.
And cut to your living
in
an apartment.
I am still working at Higgins Investments under Bill Jr. I miss you and Don. But I need money, and the job pays well. In any case, Mr. Higgins has personally asked me to contact you on behalf of your wife.
Why am I doing this?
She desperately wants to talk to you
space in your life for the right thing to come in.
But the order prohibits her from communicating with you unless you give permission.
Like, okay.
If you agree to meet her, even for a short time, she will be grateful.
There were 5 things which I said yes to, which I just
you can leave at any time.
Was doing it as a favor.
No one will try to catch you or record the conversation.
And a week later,
she's very suffering and wants to talk to you
and so
to explain
because
everything.
I don't have any other empirical
she's waiting
evidence,
outside
like,
in the company car.
Yeah.
Can I tell her to come in?
I have no choice now but to believe this motherfucker.
I should have known something was wrong.
I mean, what am I going to do?
I know you had no choice.
There's no other evidence based on what he just said.
Ask the waiter to hold our table while I go to the men's room, and you can switch places with Mary Beth.
It doesn't have to be relative to your blood work.
If I see her alone, I will take a little time to listen to her.
These nicotine pouches.
I'm on everything, man. I got the pouches.
You're still the same wonderful person I've always respected.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.
Nicotine patch.
You are still the same wonderful person whom I have always respected.
I'm tired of these, and you can't get the flavors anymore.
I must thank you.
Go to a smoke shop.
Mr. Higgins promised me a bonus of $1,000 in cash if you agree to meet her.
That's a thing.
But it's illegal.
That's not bad for you, Franny.
Yeah, that's why.
Tell Mary Beth to order for both of us.
There's a bunch.
She knows what I like.
The flavors?
I'll go back to the table and meet her in a couple of minutes.
Oh, good. Yeah, I
went to the men's room, stayed there for about 10 minutes, and looked around the room, returning to the table. I carefully examined the visitors to make sure there was nothing suspicious.
You go out of state.
If I saw Ben or anyone else who was suspicious, I would leave immediately.
Go to your guy to
get the table. I noticed only Mary Beth dressed in a designer dress as usual.
You know what?
I didn't see anything unusual.
I'm like, give me 2 rolls.
She stood up to greet me with a big smile.
It's interesting. You're on the 3s and you're pretty hardcore. If I do a 6, it knocks me out.
And quickly sat down opposite her.
I want to keep the low milligrams so
she didn't stop smiling as she sat down.
Yeah, woozy.
You have no idea how glad I am to see you again, Andrew.
I'm trying to
I missed you more than you can imagine.
Oh yeah,
I've fallen asleep crying every night since we broke up.
I'm doing them mid-set, dude. And I'm a comic.
Mary Beth.
I can't go turn my back to the fucking amp and have a drink.
If you don't mind, I'd like to wait until our food is served before talking about us so we don't get interrupted.
And if I can just have one little thing to keep the big empty away.
As you can see, my phone is on the table. It's turned off so you can make sure it's not recording anything. Everything we say here will remain between us.
Then some people are like, well, you should be more Buddhist and embrace the nothingness. I'm like, I'm not there yet. I'm at the edge of the void with my nicotine as my shield and my ego as my sword.
I could have guessed that you were worried about this after the trial.
I replied,
turning off my phone and putting it on the table.
But okay, so
now I understand
what I was going to say is
that
advice is not. It doesn't have to be relative to blood work. That's just a guy.
If I had known that I would be meeting you and not Franny, I could have come with a recording device to record the conversation. But it wouldn't have occurred to me because I thought that I would meet a former colleague.
And that sort of thing, you know.
Yeah,
can't be too careful.
All right, so going back
to
get to the catacombs now, when you went,
let's refrain from any kind words for a while.
Paris,
okay,
it must have been moving.
Whatever you say, Andrew.
But
the last thing I want today is to make you angry.
On some level,
I want to restore harmony between us, if possible. We talked about her work and exchanged general pleasantries to pass the time until we were served what we ordered. About 25 minutes after she arrived, we started our meal, and she finally got down to the main thing.
Here. And like
Thank
I said,
you
this
for
is the
agreeing
most
to
I've
meet
ever
with me
about
despite this ridiculous restraining order.
The reason I don't talk about it is because it doesn't make
all
me
your
feel
lies and
better
betrayals,
or
Mary Beth,
do anything.
I believe this warrant is good for my well-being.
That's like,
is this what you wanted to talk about?
Like,
no, Andrew. I came to apologize to you from the bottom of my heart. I'm sorry you were hurt so badly that you left the party that night. It didn't have to be one-sided. Trudy was supposed to seduce you, but she didn't.
As I said,
she's still furious that you deceived her.
I never feel
it's not your story.
As far as I remember, the only people having fun back then were you and Ben. Be honest, Mary Beth.
And it is my story.
How long did you and him have sex that night?
I don't know how to explain.
She blushed at my direct
when
question.
I do explain it,
I'm not going to lie to you anymore, Andrew.
But the concert was
you deserve the truth, even if it hurts me.
It was.
I want you to come home to me.
It was something else.
We must leave this in the past.
It did not.
Ben and I were together for several hours.
What happened?
It was magical for me. Sorry, Andrew, but I promised the truth.
Who attended.
The strangest thing is that no one understands how you made that video of Ben and I having sex. Our phones were confiscated when we arrived.
that someone would do.
Mary
and
Beth.
we're together.
Yeah,
I'm not here to
what's the most
satisfy your
important things other
curiosity.
than your time and your
I presented
energy?
this video in court to prove
and
that
honoring
both
the
of you are
community
shameless liars
that
who
was
conspired with
affected
Dr.
and
Edel
also,
involuntarily
showing up for the community
institutionalized
that
me
you
until I
are part
agreed
of
to
and
join your
created.
club.
Yeah, and
Why,
yeah,
Mary Beth?
Because you
why
say
did you
things
do
like
this to me, to us?
Everyone was here.
Are you
because,
kidding? Have you forgotten that in your new position you will receive a salary of $1 million a year? And this is just the beginning. Julie said that Don admitted that you are the main reason for the success of Higgins Investments.
Of the same city,
huge
part
increases
of that
and bonuses await you.
It
we
is
finally
because
entered high
you start
society,
to develop,
and all we need to do is play by the rules.
So many years, you start to develop
Ben is desperate for you to come back, Andrew.
With cities
he
and
said
towns.
he would kick Bill Jr. out the moment you agreed to come back.
Kind of romantic connection to these things.
My face became
sometimes
hard.
It's a bad breakup.
I will never
of the city,
go back
and sometimes
there.
It's just a
you
love
can put
affair.
this idea
like my
out of your head.
Married his husband in Paris.
Listen, Andrew, don't rush into making such an important decision.
For me,
Ben said I could only suggest this as a last resort. He's so desperate to get you back that he's willing to waive the intimate relationship clause in our case, which applies to all other council members.
City for moments.
Neither you nor I will ever again be asked to share partners with others.
And
that was your only complaint, right? We can go back to the way things were before you ruined everything. Go back to what you always said.
I don't want to,
the two of us against the world.
And it can
Mary Beth,
burn you out
you
and
act
make
as
you
if
feel
everything you did was a minor infraction, just a minor nuisance for us.
A shell of yourself.
I'm telling you,
and I
it's
sometimes
not like
turn
that.
into an animal.
You used the law against me by lying to the authorities and claiming that I was a rapist and mentally
for some reason, the loneliness,
in court,
like even if you're only away for 3 days,
against me rather than exercise your right of spousal privilege and remain silent.
What am I doing with
marital vows and cheated on me with my boss.
It's just the worst. And you're just at a hotel and you're a mall.
And yet you somehow managed to pretend that your betrayal makes you a model wife.
Because it's all about outlook.
Yes, Andrew, I admit it. I did it all, but for us, for all the right reasons.
Leave everyone
if you go back to work with Ben, you will never have to share me with another man again, and we will be able to afford everything we dreamed of.
But also, there's
the romantic.
Do you remember?
Mary Beth heard a woman sobbing behind her.
You also get to that point where
her suffering was so intense that she involuntarily turned around to see who it was.
I just
Liz, honey, what are you doing here? Why are you crying?
I just leave myself
behind
here.
My oldest daughter jumped to her feet, walked around her mother, and ran straight into my arms. I held my baby girl as she cried on my chest. I hated to do this to her, but she would never have believed that her mother could do such heinous things if she had not heard those words from her own lips. Dad called and asked me to come as quickly as possible, saying that it was urgent. He asked not to tell you that I am here, but just to listen to your conversation with him.
And also,
after everything you told us about it, I felt like I had to listen to it at least once, and I'm glad I did.
The catacombs,
Mom, you lied to us and used us against Dad.
I hate these people.
We trusted you more than anyone, and it was a mistake.
Which was dug.
Dad, can you forgive me, Andy and Daisy, for not believing you earlier? I swear we'll never make that mistake again.
And so much.
I hugged my firstborn with all my might. Of course, I forgive you, Liz. I just wanted you to know the truth.
What is the history?
That's all.
Was it different?
Now that I know the truth, you can be sure that Andy and Daisy will soon find out too.
I believe they stopped using it.
I will take care of this personally.
1500s, but it's
Mary Beth tried to correct the situation. Honey,
and then
Liz interrupted
I believe
her.
The 1700s.
You had a chance to tell us the truth,
this
Mom,
overflow
and you missed it. I'm so ashamed of the way we treated my dad. When all this time you were the one lying to us and hurting my dad for what?
You talk about
money. It will be a long time before any of us can trust you again.
So they start to
Mom, you need help.
Right, but
you
stacking them lovingly. It's
yes.
Not,
Mary Beth cried as she watched her daughter tell me how much she loved me, kissed me on the cheek, and walked away from her mother in disgust without saying another word.
Stacking bones,
I suddenly felt confident that Andy and Daisy would soon feel the same way as their older sister.
Monument to
Why did you turn the children against me, Andrew?
The inevitability
it was very
of
cruel
death.
of you.
Yeah,
which is life.
I could ask you the same question, Mary Beth.
Yeah,
but in fact,
this is
I did not turn the children against you. integration
You
of
did
the
it yourself
inevitable.
with your own
But
words.
Those of
All
us
I
who are
did was
alive,
arrange for Liz to hear the truth
you look
from
at
your
it
own
with
lips.
awe. You don't look at it with
I didn't
horror.
really turn
You
them
think it would
against
be
you.
horror.
And don't
I
look
just
away,
hinted
you know?
that you
Yeah,
were
you
partly
can't.
to blame
And
for our
surrounded by
breakup.
skeletons.
And I think
I just wanted them to help you make the decision to come back to me,
literally,
so
and
we
not
could
just
be a
in
whole
there,
family again.
And, you know, in what
That's
we're
all I
talking
ever
about
wanted,
too, it's
Andrew,
like
to
this
reconnect
need,
with you.
I've just had
You've
this
made it clear exactly what you
need,
want,
and I think
and
I've
it all seems to
romanticized
be
it to help
related to
me
my
look-
potential
it's
income
like,
that would
what am I
accompany
trying to
my
say?
promotion.
That when things are tough,
Leaving
don't
that
look
job
away.
is the stupidest thing you've ever done.
Stare into this thing.
I don't
you know,
agree.
The
The stupidest thing I've ever done was marry you.
9 times out of 10,
Our 3 children are the
if
only
you
bright
look into
spots
this
in
thing,
my
you
life
won't- you
that have
realize
come
I
out
don't
of our
need to be
marriage.
afraid of it.
That's right.
And that
All
10th
other
time when
memories
you should be
associated
afraid,
with
now
you were
fucking know.
destroyed
You
by
should
your
be.
betrayal
Yeah,
and
that's right.
infidelity.
And you understand
Once
that
upon
you
a
should
time,
be.
I
Yes.
could not
And
imagine
I
my
want the
life without you.
understanding.
Now
Wanna
I
know
can't
when to be
imagine my
afraid.
life with you.
For real.
Let's
It-
stop
and-
this
and-
farce and have a
when to,
civilized
like,
divorce.
Not,
I
if
promise
don't
not
need
to
fuck
tell
with
my
being
children
afraid, I don't want
anything
to.
bad about
And also
you.
somebody like you
I
who
think
has
you
like,
handled this
cheated
yourself.
death several times.
Mary
and,
Beth's
had
determination
a
gave
certain
way to a
amount
hardened
of,
look. Okay,
kind
Andrew,
of self-destructive
if you want to ruin
propulsion.
your life,
Yeah.
I can't stop
and,
you.
there's no
Don't
like,
say
there's
later
no,
that I
mean,
didn't try to
look,
persuade you.
There's something
You have no idea how
about
much
death
power
that
Ben
is
has.
essential to
If he wants to solve a
certain
problem,
strands
it will
of
be
rock
solved
and roll,
one way
and
or
you
another.
are part of that.
Is this a threat,
Yeah, for
dear
sure.
wife? This is the best
and,
warning
well,
I can
I
give,
think, too,
given
that,
your stubbornness. Think
that,
about it, Andrew. This
in
is
the
not a
last bunch of
David
years,
versus Goliath
facing
situation.
a lot of, I've lost
To
a
a
lot
man
of
with
people,
Ben's
you know,
wealth,
we're at that
you are
age
nothing
where
more
it's
than
like
an
you
just start
annoying
dropping,
fly.
Yeah, and
We're
in
both
music,
trying
they
to
drop
do what's
earlier,
best
so
for
they're
you,
dropping
but you
when I'm in my
refuse to
50s
accept it.
here in my early
You
50s
need to talk to
instead
the
of
DA and
growing
convince him
old,
to
you
drop
know,
these
and,
ridiculous charges.
and
Thank you
going
for
through
your
lots
help
of
in
other
establishing
things, which
relationships
at the
with
end of
children.
the day, it's like
The only
in the
interest
last 5
I
or 6
have in
years,
you
I've never
now is
grown so
exclusively
much so
for divorce.
fast because
Tell Ben my thanks for
growing is
paying for dinner.
painful. Right.
Sorry,
Yeah, and
Mary
sometimes
Beth,
it's like
but I've
it
lost
also
my
moves
appetite.
quicker when you get older.
Don't try
It's
to
like
contact me again.
You're growing,
Violating
but
the
like, a lot of what's
restraining order
happening
is not in your best interest.
A certain amount of zero
Farewell
fucks
and
is
don't come
taking
again,
hold.
I
Yeah.
said,
And a
putting
lot
the
of stuff
phone
is
in my
falling to the
pocket
wayside
and
that used
quickly
to
walking
sort
away
of
from the
drive
crying
your
woman.
life.
Yeah,
The following
for sure.
weekend,
it's a
I had a
natural
pleasant
occurrence.
surprise.
So that growing
All 3
happens
of my
naturally,
children
but also
spent time with me at
time
home,
is
asking for
running
forgiveness and
out.
reconnecting,
Right.
giving
Well,
me
but this is
much-needed
this is
emotional
one of the
support
great things
after
is when
everything
you
that
say,
happened. Liz pulled me
I've just no
aside
time
and
to
spoke
waste.
quietly.
I
I
must
finally looked into
move
that
forward.
court
I
case you
definitely
asked me to
can't
find
sit
out
here and-
about.
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
not
I
imagine the
definitely
extent
gotta
to
deal
which
with
your
this.
mother
Sure.
and your boss
Or you
went
can be like,
and what
well,
you
you
had
know
to
what?
go
I'm
through
just gonna
because
sit
of
here.
her false accusations. Even though
But
this
then
video
therein
of
lies
her
the
and your
escapist
boss
trip
is
that I
part
love
of a
too.
public
Sure.
matter,
But like if
I'm
you've got
sorry
your
I
shit
watched
settled
it.
and you want to sit
No
down,
child should
Yeah.
see their
Go
mother
ahead.
like this.
Yeah, in the zero
But now
fucks
I
given
understand why you
aspect of
insisted.
getting older.
All 3
But
of us
so
rejected you outright.
because, like, I'll tell you,
and
man,
we were
you're
wrong.
watching that.
This will never
that
happen
piece,
again, Dad.
in the catacombs.
But I won't tell
of you doing
Andy
those
and
tunes
Daisy
and not
about that video.
being,
I shared the rest of the
familiar
information with
the
them,
other
and I
versions
think
of it.
that's enough.
There's something about
Honey,
the ones you chose,
I agree with
and
you
also
and
your sense of
understand.
melody has
I
gotten
would
very
never have
sophisticated.
presented this video if your mother had
when you
testified
do that
honestly.
acoustically,
It's a shame.
It really
It's a
kind
shame
of
she didn't come to me
showcases
with their proposal
not just the
first,
singing, but like,
instead let me be
the
caught
kind
off
of, like,
guard. We might still be together if
elaborate
she had just
melodies.
talked to
Yeah.
me. But that's
and
all
then,
in
like,
the past.
because the fucking
It was hard
dude,
for me
like,
to let my
when,
children
when,
go.
Laura first
Andy
sent it to
and
me, I watched
Daisy
a few
returned
minutes
to
of it. I'm
college,
like, all right, well,
and Liz
all right, so
returned
he's
to
in
her
the
job
catacombs.
and
then
good
I'm like,
husband.
dude, just watch the
I
whole
wish
thing. And I
them
watched the whole
nothing
thing. I'm
but
like,
the best.
oh my god!
Now I'm alone again
this
in
is
a
so
house full
fucking,
of memories of what was,
it's hard to even
juxtaposed
explain
with what is now.
the natural
I'm
weight
still unemployed,
that starts
even
to
though I
happen
have a
in them.
degree
Yeah, right.
and years of
but it's not
experience
heavy.
in analytical
It
work.
just is.
I continue
but
to look
also
for
there-
opportunities with
the
a
space
company
itself,
that needs
because
my
of low
unique
ceilings.
skill set.
Anything where you can't
Over
help
the
but see the
course of a
ceiling.
week, I packed everything that
there's
belonged to
something
Mary Beth.
kind of
I had mixed feelings about selling my
it's
house.
not mystical.
Now that
but,
the kids are back on
my side. This house remains their home base, especially for Andy and Daisy.
But the sound was so
all
good.
Their things
all the instruments sounded
Some
good.
Some friends contacted
but also
me,
just
shocked by the news of our divorce.
There was an element that
I contented myself
happened,
with telling them that Mary Beth
and all that.
And I had different ideas about the direction our lives should take.
The funny thing is,
I felt their curiosity was pushing me to go into more detail, but I didn't want to relive it all.
It's a bit like
on Friday, I decided to get out of the house. Went to a movie and had dinner at a nice restaurant.
Yes, you say
While
yes,
there
yes,
alone,
and,
I found myself thinking about the people around me. wondering what might be going on in their lives right now. It's funny, but I never would have thought about such things before.
I don't know why I had that all.
I parked the car in the garage around 9 o'clock in the evening and headed into the house. I decided that a hot shower and watching the news on TV would help me sleep.
So much,
but as I was passing through the living room on my way upstairs, the lights suddenly turned on, and I was grabbed by two
and also
men.
The bones are absorbing all that fucking
much
noise.
Stronger than me.
Absolutely, and so
I felt as if I had been moved by the trees.
What happened is you descend down the stairwell. It's like 132 spiral stairs.
Who are you, and what do you need?
Just keep going.
I don't have anything valuable in my house. Take my wallet and just leave.
You get down in there.
I promise I won't tell anyone anything.
When we did the walkthrough,
the two men chuckled at my situation.
I've never been in there. I just
Andrew,
heard of it and dreamed
we don't
of
need
it
anything you have.
Really?
We are not going to take anything from the house except one sheet of paper.
18 or 19 years ago,
you sign
when I went to Paris,
and we will have it notarized. So why don't you make it easier and sign it so we can leave quietly without using force on you?
The line was like 3.5 hours.
Sign what?
And so the impetus of this is like
this is
from
a copy in case you decide to tear it up.
If I'm being honest,
the original is on that table. Believe me, you will sign this.
How'd you get permission?
The question is whether you will do it in a good way or in a bad way.
I mean,
it's up to you.
Too bad the French don't have a word for
I read the document that was thrust into my hands. I, Andrew Stevenson, of sound mind and body and of my own free will, do solemnly swear that at all times I have consented to my wife having intimate relations with other men. I pretended to disagree so I could extort more money from my boss, Ben Higgins. And when this attempt failed, I became aggressive and attacked my wife, which led to my temporary placement in a mental hospital. I shouldn't have been released. My irrational behavior led to my wife leaving me, and I no longer see a future for myself. I hereby absolve Mary Beth Stevenson, Ben Higgins, and Dr. Ederle of any responsibility as they were victims of my masterful manipulation. My last request is that my wife finds happiness with someone else and forgives me for my wrongdoings. My life has no meaning without her.
And with the director,
Andrew Stevenson.
Okay, we could do this.
I can't sign this. This is a suicide note.
We can't
One
do
of
that
the men
here,
hit me.
Yes, and we can
I
go
knew
over
that
here,
if I signed,
and we
they would kill me.
Improvised.
But if I don't sign, they will beat me to a pulp. And then force me to sign and kill me after that.
Far-reaching
Resigned,
access,
I began to write my signature.
Access.
Good boy. You just saved yourself a lot of misery. I promised to make this as painless as possible.
So you could really produce
I closed my eyes and began to pray.
But you can't plug anything
Ben won.
Right.
He ruined my life, robbed me of my wife, ruined my marriage, and now he is taking my life.
You have a car battery.
There's nothing more he can take from me. Then I heard the sound of a fight taking place. I looked at my savior, stunned and not knowing what to expect now.
Really apparent
they extended their hand to me.
It
Hello,
felt
Andrew. I'm Kayla Feldman.
You can't
Are
have
you all right?
And then
let me help you get
go
up.
down there and implement them.
I know
told what to
you
do
are
by
Ben's
the
bodyguard. Will you kill me instead
we were
of
not
him?
the stars
You
of
are
that
partly
show.
right. We had met before, and I actually worked for Ben.
To do its work.
But like you, I'm unemployed now.
It really does.
It's not MTV Unplugged.
She took the phone and started talking.
No, it's not like anything.
911. My name is Kayla Feldman, and I am located at 1142 Forest Avenue in the home of Andrew Stevenson.
Which doesn't matter.
I want to report an attempt on his life.
There's no way that space
and was
is
forced
not
to
going
use force to prevent his
play
murder.
a role.
Please send 2 ambulances and police to apprehend the 2 male attackers.
And it's not haunted.
I have
it's
video
not scary,
footage of their attack
and it's
threats.
like living, breathing.
We will be waiting for your arrival.
Art.
There is no longer any immediate threat.
That is probably the greatest monument to reverence
the police
for the dead.
Will be here very soon.
It's the largest.
Attempted murder is a serious matter. Let me do most of the talking.
And yet,
answer only questions they ask you directly.
You're negotiating.
I have a lot to tell you, but I don't have time for it right now.
And there just
after this
so
is
many
all over,
weird
we'll find a safe place where we can talk it out.
As you said,
Agreed.
First of all, it is the dominant character.
Kayla dealt with the police masterfully,
but not in
explaining everything in great detail.
It's not a spectacle.
The 2 men were still unconscious when the ambulances arrived, but they were revived with ammonia.
It doesn't
the
allow
detective
for that
who arrived
to occur.
soon questioned both them and Kayla. She did everything possible to minimize my participation in the investigation. I was asked only a few questions to confirm her words. When all the evidence, including recorded threats and statements, was collected and recorded, the front of my house was surrounded by yellow tape. Now my house had become a crime scene, and the police needed to return to collect all the remaining evidence.
That's the only time you're ever going to play them like that.
The detective asked if I had the opportunity to stay somewhere for a few days.
And there's no need to.
Kayla assured him that this was possible, but asked permission to collect my luggage.
And nothing more
this
and nothing
was approved.
again.
My head was spinning. And everything happened too quickly. I didn't understand why Ben's former bodyguard saved my life. It all seemed incredible. After the police gave us permission to leave, Kayla took me to her home. She assured me that I would be completely safe there. I brought my suitcase to her cozy, beautifully furnished home. She led me to the kitchen. I realize it's late, Andrew, almost midnight. But you probably have a lot of questions.
Not primitive, but
would you like to have a cup of coffee while we talk about everything?
And even down to
certainly.
John, our drummer, was like, what should I play?
I replied, accepting a cup of amazingly delicious coffee from her hands.
I noticed
Before you ask questions, I would like to tell you something.
Because
this may answer many of them.
When I noticed that instrument,
do you mind waiting until I finish?
It's not an instrument; it's a
of course, Kayla. I owe you my life.
Percussively,
whatever you want is acceptable to me.
Chains are associated
she nodded
with ghosts,
gratefully.
But it didn't
Thank
do
you,
that.
Andrew. I grew up in Israel in a family with 4 older brothers who were very strong.
Ancient industrial.
I was the youngest and only girl.
Sort of thing.
My parents wanted me to be feminine, but I was born with a fighting spirit. I had to fight with my brothers for everything I wanted. As I grew older, they stopped taking into account that I was a girl and treated me as an equal. I started practicing martial arts to fight them back, and soon I was able to defeat them one by one. I soon developed the physique of a bodybuilder with the mentality of a fighter. I became the commander of the Israel Defense Forces, earning this position for myself.
And I
they didn't give me anything for nothing.
It helped to reveal
Ben met me in a security detail in Europe
it helped to
and
reveal
convinced me to work
more.
for him
How'd you
as
choose
head
a
of
song?
security. My team vets every person who attends the annual company Christmas party.
The first thing was a
so I personally didn't see your file until I stared at you that night. There's a reason I stared at you.
It started to become
and
more
it wasn't
about
because you were
family
perceived
and things
as a
that were
threat.
Emotionally driven.
Kayla took a sip of coffee and continued.
Like the suture of
I
your
was
future
shocked
is
to the
about
core when I saw you that night.
I'm going to sew this up
So I
and let it
decided to
go.
look into every detail of your file and then did deep research into all the available information about you. I am sure that now I know much more about you than your own children. But there was one amazing discovery that explained everything. I was diagnosed with high-functioning autism as a teenager. But that's not all. I thought it was normal, but the doctors explained that my synesthesia was rare. You have analytical number synesthesia, and I have a social form of synesthesia. I see auras around people that allow me to recognize what they are like. Honest, dishonest, kind, evil, smart, stupid, clean, unclean, conscientious, indifferent, narcissistic, sacrificial, and the like. Each of these qualities creates a certain color aura around a person when I look at him. The combination of characteristics gives rise to a mixture of colors. It took me a while to figure this out, but over time I learned to read people based on their dominant personality traits. People with evil or treacherous intentions became my targets in my role as commander and bodyguard. I stopped every attempt on Ben's life if I could intervene. When I joined the Israel Defense Forces, I trained with hundreds of other female soldiers. I met one special woman, Haya Cohen. When I first saw her, I noticed a golden aura with bright white flashes as if she was glowing. We became close friends, and I soon learned that she, too, had synesthesia like me. We were inseparable until she was kidnapped and killed by terrorists. I made it my mission to find these beasts and make them pay for taking such a precious life from me. She took a sip of coffee and continued. Andrew, the reason I looked at you like that night is because you have the same golden aura with white flashes as Chaya. I decided to keep an eye on you while I worked for Ben. We both took a sip from our cups before she continued. Yes, I knew that the wives of the general director and members of the board of directors practiced partner exchange. Ben insisted on it, and everyone seemed to be okay with it. So who am I to judge? But when Ben dragged you into this situation, presenting you with a fait accompli,
it
didn't sit well with me. I needed to find a way to protect you. I couldn't save your wife because she was under the influence for too long and was already lost to you before that night.
Another interesting thing that we did.
But as events unfolded, I did everything I could to help you.
30 seconds before
Let me explain.
Each take and
Ben's entire mansion is stuffed with audio and video cameras everywhere, even in the bathroom.
Everyone's staring at each other.
As head of security, I controlled everything. This is my job. I saw you go upstairs after Robert and Trudy. After one of my employees closed the door behind you, I entered the main surveillance room where all the cameras are recording and gave the operator a short break. Although video recordings from bathrooms and bedrooms are saved, they cannot be viewed without entering a special password. I turned on the broadcast from the bedroom where you ended up with them and watched as Ben presented you with a fait accompli. It was obvious that you didn't suspect anything until that moment. Ben made his intentions clear, but you flatly refused. This made me happy, but Ben never backs down.
You feel that
he is a billionaire,
that is
accustomed to getting everything he wants.
Not unlike
when he left you alone in the room with Trudy, I wasn't sure if you would succumb to her charms, so I waited and watched.
This moment won't last.
If you agreed, there would be nothing I could do. But when I saw how you cunningly persuaded her to let you tie her up to buy time, I laughed until I cried. Then I kept watching as you recorded everything on Trudy's phone and then deleted the traces. When you found a way to open the window to get out, I knew I had to do something. I ordered through the walkie-talkie the guard on duty at that part of the house to take a break until he was called back. Several cameras were watching the roof. I saw you move towards the tree to climb down, and I redirected another guard to take control of that part of the area.
I was like,
when I saw that you got out in the car, I instructed the guard at the gate to take a break and sent him to get something to eat. So you were able to leave. My last gift to you that night was that I used a stun gun on the inputs of the video recorder. The device burned and all recordings from that night were destroyed. Ben was furious when he found out there was no recording of your escape and ordered new equipment to be brought in. He interrogated all the guards, but no one except me knew how you were able to escape. When he asked me what happened, I reminded him that my priority was his safety. And that he was unharmed. He couldn't blame me for that.
I slept like a baby.
She stopped, took a long sip of coffee, and looked at me. I was stunned. All this time I thought I was being cunning by escaping from the mansion. But it turns out that my success was only possible thanks to her intervention.
What time is it?
Now I realize that with Kayla on my side, I didn't need any luck. I owe you my life, Kayla.
Heart attack.
What you did that night and the way you saved me today is beyond any gratitude, I said. But I still want to know, what will Mr. Feldman think about me being here?
Yeah, the whole thing's beautiful.
She laughed.
And it was
Mr.
really
Feldman,
kind of moving.
My father.
It's good to see you again, pal.
No, I mean your husband, fiancé, boyfriend, or life partner. Her laughter became even louder. You're funny.
There you go.
I'm not married, and I don't have anyone right now.
Queens of the Stone Age,
I had
alive
fans,
in the catacombs,
but my father always told me that I should not settle for less.
Hang out for a minute, folks.
He said that I needed a unique, very special person.
Okay,
to be honest,
listen,
I was expecting a man with a golden aura.
About the reasons we decided to wrap up WTF
not for long,
later this year, Brendan and I did a bonus
going
episode
to resolve this
for
issue
full Maron
as soon as
subscribers,
possible.
Where we explain
She gave me a dazzling smile that warmed me to the core.
I've been saying to you for
Ben will
for
quickly
many
realize
months,
that something went wrong with your
about
execution.
The Apple show and this
Sooner
and that,
or later, he will find out that it was I who foiled his plan to kill you. But he knows full well that attacking me or threatening you in my house is the worst mistake he can make.
What would you be okay with doing on a day where you weren't working?
He will have to face the consequences.
What would
and he
make
knows
you happy
that I am
about
capable
that? And I
of
think
it.
you've actually
I'm not saying that no one can eliminate me.
Sure,
but I assure you that Ben doesn't know anyone who could do this.
To sort of
the district attorney persuaded the two bandits to make a deal. They received a reduced sentence for attempted murder in exchange for handing over Ben Higgins as the organizer and financier of their crime. Because the stakes were now much higher.
I've never been able to take a real vacation
sped up the process of adding a murder conspiracy charge to the case against Ben.
The podcast in
the prosecutor had no sympathy for wealthy billionaires
there's
who
a whole
considered
world
themselves
out there
above the law.
I'm
Mary
just
Beth
have to
could
get
not
out
be
from
charged with conspiracy
whatever
to
the
murder,
core anxieties
although
are
the forged
and try to live
suicide
my life
letter
a little bit.
was supposed to benefit her from my confession
to get
and
bonus
subsequent
episodes
death.
twice a week. Sign up
She
for
was devastated
Maron
when she later learned that there had been an attempt on my life. When my house was cleared of evidence needed for a trial against the bandits, I was allowed to return there to collect my belongings.
For the duration of the show, just
Kayla
to hear that
insisted
episode,
that I continue to stay with her until the trial was over.
Is hosted by
she believed that Ben might make another attempt to eliminate me.
Brought to you by John
Honestly,
Lennon.
I would happily stay with Kayla even without the potential threat. No, I know what you're thinking. We didn't have sex, at least for now. While I was still married to Mary Beth, this was important to me. Kayla respected my position and said that my sense of honor was one of the traits she valued most. But every moment we spent together was something special, filled with electricity. The best way to describe it is in the words of an old song. She is the magnet and I am the steel. We could watch TV all day and not say a word, but we still felt connected. I slept in her guest room, although she said that I could come to her anytime. Meanwhile, Ben offered his services as Mary Beth's lawyers, but she hired her own. Her lawyer insisted that she be tried separately on charges of conspiracy, making false statements to force my incarceration, which was considered a form of kidnapping, and making false statements under oath. She was found guilty and, as a first-time offender, was given 10 years in prison with the possibility of parole. She cried when she signed divorce papers while in custody. I thought there were no more obstacles on the path to freedom, but everything went wrong again. A week later, Mary Beth contacted my lawyer and set up a meeting, which he insisted I attend. Okay, Mary Beth, I began. My lawyer didn't tell you what you need from me. You've already signed the divorce papers. What could be so important? She lowered her eyes in embarrassment. Thanks for coming, Andrew. I didn't ask for a meeting to argue or put pressure on you in any way. Everything is much more complicated. In short, I'm pregnant. I began to suspect this based on the symptoms, which I know well, because I already have 3 children, she continued. I understand that you may not believe me, Andrew. I know you had the procedure after Daisy was born, so I'm sure you can't be the father. But by law, our divorce cannot be finalized until paternity is legally established. Even in cases of your procedure, the state recognizes the possibility of its failure. Are you kidding me? I exclaimed. We had unprotected sex thousands of times after my procedure, and now you want to tell me that by some miracle I made you a child. Everyone saw the tape of you having unprotected sex with Ben, who we know can still have children. I know, Andrew, she said with tears in her eyes, and I regret it more than you can imagine. After all these years of never using protection, I didn't think about it that night. Yes, it could be Ben's baby, but if you remember, you and I had sex a few days before that fateful night. Even you cannot say that this is physically impossible. Don't lecture me on how this works, Mary Beth, I replied sharply. I heard that there is a non-invasive prenatal paternity test. When can it be done? I already consulted a doctor in prison, she said. The test is absolutely safe for me and the child. But for an accurate result, it is better to carry it out after the 7th or 8th week of pregnancy. Now, by my calculations, I have about 6 weeks. I'm not against the test, but it's not covered by the government. If you want to do it, you will have to pay for it yourself. Okay, I said. We will organize